Mayor Allen, it is now 6:30 and you do have quorum, so you may start the meeting when you're ready.
Thank you. Can I have a mover and seconder to call the meeting to order, please? Councillor Moore, Councillor Maude Chapman, to the regular meeting of the Council of the Township of Springwater of May 4th, 2022 come to order at 6:30 p.m. All those in favor? That is carried. Due to COVID-19, Council continues to take the necessary steps to limit in-person meetings, and therefore we are conducting council meetings still virtually with council members and staff. You can watch the meeting live on the township's website by going to www.springwater.ca. You can listen by phone during the meeting by dialing 647-558-0588 and using the ID 849-0550-2628. This option is available during the meeting. Those who are unable to watch the live stream are encouraged to review the meeting at their convenience by watching the video on the township's YouTube channel. Council, are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest this evening? Seeing none, we will move into the public meeting. Can I have a mover and seconder to call this public meeting to order, please? Councillor Cabral, Deputy Mayor Coughlin, that the public meeting of council held under Section 34 of the Planning Act for application ZB 2022-003, re DeBoer, and ZB 2022-001, re D Hickling, be called to order at 6:31 p.m. All those in favor? That is carried. Welcome to this public meeting of Springwater Township Council held in compliance with Section 34 of the Planning Act to give the public an opportunity to express their views in regard to the proposed amendments to the Township of Springwater zoning bylaws amended. The first part of this meeting is to present the amendment. Following this, the public will be given the opportunity to make an oral submission through the Zoom application. Any person wishing to make an oral submission must have notified the township prior to 8:30 a.m. this morning and must have been added to the commenters list. If a person or a public body who files an appeal of a decision of the Township of Springwater in respect of a zoning bylaw amendment does not make oral submissions at a public meeting or written submissions to the Township of Springwater before the proposed zoning bylaw amendment is passed, the Ontario Land Tribunal may dismiss all or part of the appeal. All comments or questions should be addressed through myself as chair. Oral submissions will be included in this meeting's minutes and form part of the public record, including the name and address of the speaker as information collected under the Municipal of Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act. The minutes of the meeting will be posted on the township's website. We are dealing with ZB 2022-003, first by Joanna DeBoer for 2494 Baseline Road. I will now call upon the clerk to confirm notice of this meeting and the dates on which notice was given.
Notice of this public meeting was mailed on the 14th day of April 2022 to the owner of the subject lands and to the assessed owners of 7 properties in the Township of Springwater within 240 meters of the area to which the proposed amendments would apply, and to all persons and public bodies as prescribed under the Planning Act and its regulations. Notice was also posted at the assessed property to which the proposed amendments apply at a location that was visible from Baseline Road. The notice was also placed on the township's website.
And has the planning department received any correspondence in response to this notice of public meeting?
There have been no items of correspondence received for this application.
I will now call on Planner Belcourt to give a presentation outlining the purpose and effect of this proposal, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Please let me just share my screen. Okay, can everybody see it?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, thank you, Your Worship. The Township of Springwater has received an application for zoning bylaw amendment ZB 2022-003 submitted by Joanna DeBoer on behalf of the property owners. as required by conditions 5 and 6 of the Committee of Adjustments decision B-1521 for a surplus farm dwelling consent, and in line with planning policy surrounding such consents, the applicant is proposing to rezone the existing agricultural and agricultural exception 39 zone at 2494 Baseline Road to the agricultural exception and agricultural consolidation exceptions zones. The severed lands are proposed to be rezoned to the agricultural exception A-XX zone to recognize the size of the existing detached accessory building and prohibit the keeping of livestock. That's just in here. The retained farmland is proposed to be rezoned to the appropriate agricultural consolidation exception zones to prohibit any new residential uses and the keeping of livestock in the existing agricultural hay storage building. The agricultural exception noted as XY on this map will apply to the portion of the property currently zoned agricultural exception A39 to maintain the specific provisions which prevent forestry and equestrian facility uses on those lands. The proposed rezoning will satisfy conditions 5 and 6 of the Committee of Adjustments decision and is in line with the policy guidance for surplus farm dwelling consents provided in provincial, county, and township policy. That concludes my overview of this application. Both myself and Ms. DeBoer are available should council have any questions this evening.
Thank you. I'll now call upon the moderator to provide the number of people who have registered to ask questions or make comments regarding this application.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. There are no commenters registered to make an oral submission for this application.
All right, turning to council, do any members of council have questions or comments regarding this application? All right, seeing none, thank you to all who participated in the public meeting with respect to the proposed zoning bylaw amendment and for showing interest in this matter. Next, we are dealing with ZB 2022-001 by Midhurst Valley Development, Inc. for 1926/1404 Carson Road. I'll now call upon the clerk to confirm notice of this meeting and the dates on which notice was given.
Notice of this public meeting was mailed on the 14th day of April, 2022 to the owner of the subject lands and to the assessed owners of 17 properties in the township of Springwater within 120 meters of the area to which the proposed amendment would apply, and to all persons and public bodies as prescribed under the Planning Act and its regulations. Notice was also posted at the assessed property to which the proposed amendment applies at a location that was visible from Carson Road. The notice was also placed on the township website.
And has the planning department received any correspondence in response to this notice of public meeting?
There have been no items of correspondence received for this application.
I will now call on Mr. Matthew Corey of Malone Given Parsons and Ms. Cheryl Shindrock of Midhurst Valley Development to give a presentation outlining the purpose and effect of the proposal, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm just trying to get my camera activated.
Good evening, Your Worship.
Hello.
Sorry, I don't seem to be able to turn my camera on.
Yeah, I'm getting the message. You cannot start your video because the host has stopped it. So we need some, I think, assistance there, Madam Clerk.
There we go.
There we go.
There we go. Okay, thank you, Your Worship. Good evening, Mayor, Deputy Mayor Coughlin, and members of council, staff, and ladies and gentlemen who may be joining us tonight. My name is Cheryl Shindrock, and I am Executive Vice President with Geranium, a part of the consortium of Midhurst Valley Development, Inc. And I'm accompanied by Michael Hart, who is, I think, operating our slide deck for us tonight, and Matthew Corey with Malone Given Parsons, who are the planners on the file. I realize that we are standing between you and tonight's Toronto Maple Leafs game, so we will keep our remarks brief and certainly respond to any questions that may arise. If you could go to the next slide, please, Michael. We are here this evening in connection with, or at this public meeting for a site that is located in the Midhurst Secondary Plan known as the D. Hickling parcel. It is outlined in red on the screen, and it is located between Snow Valley Road in the north and Carson Road in the south. It is municipally known as 1296 Carson Road. It is adjacent to our Phase 1A lands, which are located to the west, that are being highlighted by Michael. Those lands are currently under construction where 342 homes are being built. The property that is subject to the zoning bylaw amendment is outlined in red there. It is approximately 207 acres, and the area subject to the actual zoning amendment is about 1/3 of an acre in area. If you go to the next slide, please. The purpose of the rezoning is to, as shown here, to implement the red line revisions to the draft plan of subdivision, which was endorsed by council earlier this year on February the 16th, and then approved by the Ontario Land Tribunal on February 25th. You go to the next slide, please. And actually, you can skip over the chronology, Michael. Thank you. So the two plans shown here is the original plan on the left, and then the approved red line plan, again, that was approved by the tribunal in February of this year. And if Michael, if you just hover on the old plan, the area that we've modified to be rezoned, and if you notice the street fabric on the right-hand plan is running more in an straight east-west direction, as opposed to the more curvy alignment on the left plan. That is the area that necessitated the small rezoning that we are before you this evening on. And so if you go to the next slide, Michael, and then one more. This slide summarizes the area highlighted in yellow, which is the area that is being rezoned with this zoning application. And again, it is to reflect the realignment of the streets from that curvy alignment to a more straight alignment, and rezoning that area in yellow from an open space zone to the urban residential zone. So, Your Worship and members of council, ladies and gentlemen, that is the essence of the zoning amendment, and that concludes our presentation. If there are any questions, we're very pleased to respond to them.
Thank you very much. I'll now call upon the moderator to provide the number of people who are registered to ask questions or make comments regarding this application.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. There are no commenters registered to make an oral submission for this application.
Okay, do members of council have any questions or comments regarding this application? Councillor Cabral?
Thank you, Mayor Allen. Just in the drawing there, you don't have to go back to the slide. It appears that you have indicated roads in the adjacent property that are also curved. Are they going to be straightened out as well? That's question number one. Question number two is, how many additional units will be accommodated in the development with the road realignment?
Ms. Shinrook?
Two questions.
Thank you, Councillor Cabral. Through you, Your Worship, to Councillor Cabral. The road pattern on the neighboring plan, to answer your first question, is that's the Thompson property, and the road pattern there has been aligned to with the road pattern on the Hickling plan. So yes, they tie into one another. And I might call on Mr. Corey to respond to the question in this area. How many lots are in that area that is in the rezoning area, Matthew?
Yeah, and good evening, everyone, and through your worship, I'm just pulling that up, Cheryl. Forgive me, I didn't have it handy, but I will pull that up shortly and give you an answer to your question.
Yeah, I'm just doing a count here, Councillor Cabral, And it looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 or 8 lots along that frontage of the park on the north side of the east-west street.
Yes, I count 12 just on the south part of that park there.
Okay, thank you. So there's 12
Yep.
lots there, yes.
Councillor Cabral, were you inquiring just about that area or the total increase in units?
Well, I think, Mayor Allen, that does represent the increase in units because of the change in the layout of that open space. That's going to now accommodate those additional lots, so there'll be 12 additional buildings available for sale. Would that be correct?
Yes, that is correct, sir.
Thank you.
But Ms. Schindrick, I was looking at the previous report. Didn't it increase from 810 to 885 units in total?
So, Your Worship, the red line revisions did have a different unit count change. Those units are all permitted within the existing zoning and do not require any change to the zoning.
Okay. Further questions? All right. Thank you to all who participated in the public meeting with respect to the proposed zoning bylaw amendment and for showing interest in this matter. Can I now have a mover and seconder to adjourn the public meeting? Councillor Maude Chapman and Councillor Ritchie, that this public meeting of council held under section 34 of the Planning Act for application ZB 2022-003 De Boer and ZB 2022-001 Hickling is now adjourned at 6:46 p.m. All those in favor? It is carried. Thank you for coming and presenting to us.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you.
Now. Okay, for direction following the public meeting, can I have a mover and seconder to receive the direction for the first item, please? Councillor Maude Chapman, Councillor Moore, that the report from the planner regarding ZB 2022-003 De Boer dated May 4, 2022 be received and that bylaw 5000-351 be presented to council for consideration and approval on May 4, 2022, subject to comments received during the public meeting. All those in favor? That is carried. And moving on to ZB 2022-001 Hickling, can I have a mover and seconder to receive direction following that public meeting? Councillor Cabral, Councillor Ritchie, that council having held a public meeting in accordance with section 34 of the Planning Act RSO 1990 P13 as amended on zoning bylaw amendment ZB 2022-001 by Midhurst Valley Development Inc. Having noted correspondence and input received, direct that the application be referred back to staff. All those in favor? That is carried. We're at 5.1 in the agenda, which is the deputation regarding economic development strategy. So I'll turn it over to Planner Brianna Belcourt for a presentation, please.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. I'm just going to share my screen again, so bear with me a moment. Go. Okay, can you guys all see that presentation now?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. Oops, sorry, I lost it myself. Okay, sorry about that. So in 2021, township staff worked to obtain some new photo and video assets for the municipality. So now that we have completed the project and received the final videos and photos from the shooters, I guess you could say, we wanted to share the results with council. So firstly, I'll provide some brief background on the project, and then I'll share the videos that were completed. Okay, so in 2018, the township adopted an economic development marketing plan, which outlines a number of marketing initiatives to promote tourism and attract business to the municipality. Many of these initiatives either require short videos or high quality imagery. So in order to fund this project, we leveraged economic development advertising funds that are in our annual budget and partnered with both the County of Simcoe, Tourism Simcoe County, and Regional Tourism Organization 7 to further our funds. So through the project, we were able to create 4 short videos and numerous photos, which were captured over 4 shoot days. These assets were created using the RTO7 vendor of record, as it is a requirement of their funding. The assets focused on the following main themes. So being trails, outdoor recreation and water sports, a day trip to Springwater, and agritourism. We also predominantly focused on summer type activities that you could complete in Springwater, as we do have some existing fall winter photos from a previous initiative a few years ago. So at this point in the presentation, I'm now just going to play through the next few slides, which include 4 videos created throughout the project. Please note there is some instrumental background music on the videos when they play. We did test it to make sure it works. However, if you experience any troubles, I do encourage you to visit the link that was provided in the agenda to view them at your own leisure. So in conclusion, the next step is to use the assets, as they now form part of the township's video and photo libraries. They can be utilized across a variety of platforms to enhance the marketing of the township, including but not limited to website, social media, and print. And that, Your Worship, concludes my presentation tonight. I do welcome any questions or comments.
Thank you very much. Those are exciting. I'm glad the volume worked, and I recognized a few people in those videos. Excellent. Questions, comments, Council? Councilor Ritchie?
Thank you, Mayor Allen, through to Brianna. Great videos. Really highlights Springwater Township and what we have to offer. Good job. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, can I have a mover and seconder to receive the economic development strategy presentation, please? Councilor Ritchie, Councilor Cabral, that the presentation from Brianna Belcourt, planner, regarding the economic development strategy be received. All those in favor? Well done. Thank you. Next, we're at question period. Item 6. Residents can submit questions through the clerk's department. either in writing or a request to pose a question at council meeting pertaining to an item on the agenda. The instructions for doing that are on the agenda under question period. Submissions are to be made by 12 noon the day of the meeting. And as I say, you can see the further details on that on the agenda this evening. Clerk Ainsworth, have there been any submissions received for tonight?
Thank you, Mayor Allen. There have been no submissions received for this evening's meeting.
Thank you. So we move to 7.1, which is the adoption of the minutes of council. Can I have a mover and seconder to approve the minutes of council, please? Councillor Ritchie and Councillor Maude Chapman. Any questions with respect to either of these minutes, being the regular meeting of council on April 20, 2022, and the special meeting of council April 20, 2022? All those in favor? That is carried. 7.2 is the minutes of boards, committees, and organizations. Mover and seconder to receive these, please. Councillor Cabral and Councillor Moore. Any questions of the minutes of the Joint Accessibility Advisory Committee meeting of April 21, 2022, or the minutes of the Economic Development Advisory Committee meeting of May 18, 2021? All those in favor? That is carried. No correspondence and information items. So we move to 9.1, which is the contribution agreement, federal grant, re the Elmvale branch of the library. Can I have a mover and seconder to get that on the floor? Councillor Moore and Deputy Mayor Coughlin. Questions with respect to this? The motion is that the report from the library CEO regarding contribution agreement, federal grant for Elmvale branch dated May 4, 2022 be received, and that council approve a maximum funding of $15,996 appropriated from the library capital discretionary reserve fund, and the remaining $47,985 or 75% of the total eligible project cost from the approved federal grant funding. All those in favor? That is carried. Action reports. Never mover and seconder to get these. Oh no, this is to get this on the floor, please. Councillor Cabral, Councillor Maude Chapman. First one is the comprehensive fees and charges. This is an option report where we have two options. So what I'd like to do is turn it over to Director Radigan for an overview of the two options and practical difference between the two of them. Please, Director Radigan.
Thank you, Mayor Allen and members of council. As part of the 2022 budget deliberations, council approved program change number 3 for the fees and charges study in the amount of $25,000. And that was to be funded through the tax rate stabilization reserve. That was approved on December 16th, 2021. On February 25th, 2022, a request for proposal was issued and released on the township's bids and tenders website. A total of 1 submission was received by the closing date from Watson and Associates Economists Limited. The purpose of this report is to seek council direction with the options outlined within the report. Option 1 seeks council's approval to proceed with a comprehensive fees and charges review in the amount of $84,200 plus HST. Option 2 seeks council approval to proceed with a slightly modified version of a comprehensive fees and charges review in the amount of $61,600 plus HST. The difference between the two options is that option 1 would assess or evaluate in greater detail at the process level how staff move through a particular process from beginning to end and the costs associated with that. For example, for a permit or an application, as well as the annual costs associated with that service. So this would be completed for both development and non-development related services. Ultimately, this option would evaluate the services we offer at the individual user fee level and on the annual resources utilized within the service areas. Under option 2, the costing for non-development related services would not be undertaken at the individual user fee level, and it would only focus on the higher annual resources that are used within the service areas. However, development related services such as the planning and the building area, those would remain unchanged. So ultimately, just to simplify it, option 1 provides for several additional hours of interviews that would be undertaken with Watsons and various staff members. And they would follow the process through from beginning to end, from when an application fee or a permit would be started or any other administrative fee. Let's say, for example, they would follow it through from all the inputs from staff and all the way through to the output of once it's finally completed, the time that it would take as well. That would be analyzed, and the consultant would then be able to determine what the actual cost is for outlining that user fee. Whereas option 2 does not provide us with that type of detail. And as a result, you would only be looking at, for example, what are the costs at a high level outlined within your financial statements to provide that service. So really, you are looking at the end results would still provide a recommendation. However, since the Township of Springwater has not done a comprehensive fees and charges review for the past 10 years, I would recommend a more detailed approach moving forward. Thank you, and I'd be happy to answer any of your questions.
Thank you, Director Radigan. And this difference of 22,600 would come from the tax rate stabilization reserve, would it?
Thank you, Mayor Allen. That is correct. The original approval has come through the tax rate stabilization reserve from the 2022 budget. So for consistency purposes, I am recommending it come through the tax rate stabilization reserve.
Councillor Hannah?
Thank you, Mayor, and through you to Director Radigan. The original budget approval was 25,000, so this is significantly more. I guess my first thought was if we're going to be spending 60,000 to get the job basically done, we might as well spend another 20,000 and spend 80,000 and get the whole thing done correctly. However, I'm not a big fan of consultants, as everybody knows by now. And I would suggest that if we're going to spend $60,000 or $80,000, we could hire somebody and we'd have that person on staff and we would have invested the money into that person. Because basically what I see from what's going to take place here, and you can help me if I'm wrong, is that the consultant will take a look at what is charged in other municipalities and towns and cities and so on for the services that we provide and give us a report and a comparison. I don't think that would take a high level of special skills to do that. I believe that my opinion is that a summer student, a university student could probably go online and get all those costs and share them with us, and we can make the decision, and we would save ourselves a lot of money and maybe meet the original target of $25,000. So I would be really happy if somebody else would support sending this back to staff and suggesting we hire a full-time person or a summer student to do it.
Director Radigan?
Thank you, Marilyn, and through you to Councillor Hannah. I absolutely do not disagree with you. This is past practice. We have completed this type of exercise in-house. The unfortunate thing is that we never truly know what that service costs in terms of the time it takes and the inputs that go into it. We could definitely do a high-level comparison. That is initially what we do on an annual basis. Each department does do their own. By hiring, let's say, a student, you would really truly want someone who has an understanding of the Municipal Act, the Building Code, as well as the Planning Act as well, simply because those fees and charges are prescribed through those acts. So there are some specialties I would say are required, as each department does currently update their own fees and charges on an annual basis. I guess what we would be receiving is expertise in a field that we haven't reviewed in the past 10 plus years. And ultimately, I do believe there would be value that we could have. Thank you.
Councillor Cabral, follow on?
Thank you. Just a quick observation. I believe that if we were to invest in hiring somebody, we'd be investing in the future as well, because that person, if they stayed on as staff, we could certainly utilize them to do other things. Where if we hire the consultant, once we paid that fee, they've done the job with that investment that we made, and that's lost. So I would still suggest that it might be worth considering hiring somebody either part-time or full-time that we're making an investment.
Councillor Cabral?
Thank you, Mayor Allen. Observation from mine is also it's a significant increase in the $25,000. And if we're looking at how much it costs for staff to do any particular thing, from the application coming in and the application going out, really all we're doing is a time study. We're looking at how much time they spend on each particular segment of processing that. And then we're looking at that number and assigning a dollar value to it. And at the end of the day, that's how we're going to come up with what it costs. I really don't think anybody needs any expertise in the municipal act or the building code to be able to follow an application through and see who handles it and how much time they spend handling it. The other thing is that we just went through an exercise where a lot of the staff members that we're speaking about right now did activity sheets and activity reports. I don't think it would be too difficult for us to get. You don't have to track every single building permit. You just have to track a random sampling of building permits to find out what the process is, because generally they all follow the same process. I'd have to agree with Councillor Hanna. I'd rather see us spend $25,000 on a university student or someone with some analytical skills that can come in and track those things for us. The reality is all they need is a laptop, and if the activity sheets that we've done in the past were done again, I think we could glean a lot of decent information from that. Because if we're trying to find out how much it costs from point A to point B, and we've done it in-house in the past, I don't see how bringing in a consultant who's not familiar with our processes, not familiar with our staff, not familiar with how people apply for things and what comes out the end and how often we go to inspectors, they're going to have a learning curve themselves. So I'd have to agree with Councillor Hanna and see whether or not this is something that we can do in-house. It's not $25,000 anymore, I guess is what I'm getting at.
Yep.
And you know, we're talking $80,000 to really track it. I'm pretty sure a student could sit in someone's office and track a document pretty quick and later on be able to crunch the numbers down and tell us what it cost for us to take it in, file it, produce it, do the inspections, and at the end of the day, how much it actually cost us. And we still have to remember that we have to keep in line with other municipalities. So if we find out that we're really doing it very efficiently and very economically, does that mean that we're going to lower all of our fees when all of the other neighboring municipalities are significantly higher? And I think, as Councillor Hanna said, that information, just like our fees, is readily available to people on our website. It's readily available to anybody else on probably every other municipality's website too. So I think this is a lot of money for something that $25,000 is what we agreed on. I'm not prepared to vote for either one of these other two proposals.
Director Radigan?
Thank you, Mayor Allen, and through you to Councillor Cabral. Initially, it was approved through the budget process, and as we are currently reviewing our own fees and charges in-house, staff do currently already do that comparison. So to hire a student to do a similar comparison, I don't believe would add value or bring on recommendations. I think the idea was to take more of an in-depth scope to get a better understanding of what we're charging versus what the actual true costs are. And I do believe that there is a ceiling limit to where a municipality can charge fees and charges based on our surrounding municipalities. But it also gives us a better idea of the services that we provide and the costs associated with those services and what is actually being subsidized as well. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Coughlin?
Thank you, Marilyn. I guess I'm kind of caught. Councillor Hannah and Cabral's initiative does hold value for me. My concern is that $25,000, I would have jumped at an opportunity in university to work for that, but I don't think that's out there anymore. So my concern would be if we did go out with a potential job application or job posting for such, we might not attract the talent that would be required to provide us with the information that we would be looking for to make decisions moving forward. On that, considering staff would then need to train and essentially mentor that new employee staff time again. So that's not exactly what we're looking to do. This number associated with this consultant is shocking to me, and that it's only one proponent that did come in is concerning, but I do see value in it. We hear on a daily basis as councillors that the fees associated and the time that it takes, residents aren't necessarily happy with it. So I would like to see this evaluated. I would like to see this evaluated shortly. But if there is an appetite to have this referred to staff and to have a plan come back to council with an in-house, what would, through you, Mayor Allen, to Director Radigan or HR, or sorry, people and talent, what number would be associated that if we're going to actually attract someone to come and work as an FTE or a part-time employee with the municipality? I don't think 25 is the number. What would we be looking at in that instance?
Director Radigan?
Thank you, Mayor Allen, through you to Deputy Mayor Coughlin. I don't believe that I would make that recommendation to proceed with a part-time, as staff are already completing that analysis on an annual basis. You may recall in early January this year, we did bring forward a fees and charges bylaw to be approved, and that is based on staff's analysis of other municipalities, but it is more at a high level. So the idea of this consultant was to really get a deeper understanding of what the fees are and what type of subsidy the Township of Springwater users versus taxpayers are actually subsidizing. So I'm not sure if I would recommend proceeding with a part-time. I do see CAO Smith has come online, so I'll turn it over to him if he has any further comments.
Go ahead, CAO.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And just to add on to Director Radigan's comments, so members of council, I think one of the things that maybe wasn't highlighted yet is that understanding that the main revenue source for the township is property taxes, and any attempt for us to offset property taxes by looking at our user fees, which is what this exercise would do, is to ensure that it's really, to Director Radigan's comment, looking at going back to ground zero and really looking at all the fees that the township currently provides and or charges, and ensuring that we are charging at the right level, and then doing a comparison with our neighbors to ensure that we're being competitive, and to Councillor Cabral's comment, ensuring that we're not positioning us out of the market, if you will. So it's really doing a truth test, if you will, and also providing justification as to ensuring that the fees that we're charging are adequate and can be justified on a go-forward basis. So it is an in-depth analysis, which, yes, it's substantially more than what we had thought the cost would be, but that's really what we're trying to do here. It has never been done that I'm aware of in the township. We have a number of user fees that are currently exist in the township, whether it be recreational fees. Those have been adjusted on an annual basis. But to be quite honest with you, I don't believe that we've ever done a real truth test to ensure, are we being competitive? Are our numbers justifiable, if you will? That's really what this is really getting down to the bare bones and justifying and ensuring that our fees are correct, and ensuring also that council's aware of there are subsidies there. Do you, or are you aware of what those subsidies are, and do you agree with what those subsidy levels are that are currently being provided? So that's the additional information that I would provide, Mr. Mayor. Again, happy to answer any questions as well.
Okay, Councillor Ma Chapman.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. And thank you to Director Radigan to explain the difference between comprehensive and high level, because I was unsure of that. A second question is, if we did proceed with the comprehensive and we did find out that our fee structure was low, do you think with raising the cost of some of our structure would ultimately pay back that $80,000?
Director Radigan.
Thank you, Marilyn, and through you to Councillor Ma Chapman. I think ultimately, if there was a fee increase, I think it would be dependent on where are we in comparison to other municipalities. And if there is a large adjustment, there's definitely a phase-in approach that the municipality could take. But I think until we do that analysis, it's really difficult to make any assumptions to say that we would see a return on investment. I believe that regardless, it's a good study to undertake to determine what our true cost is of providing some of the user fee services that we do provide.
Councillor Moore.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. The $84,000 is a lot more than the $25,000. So it's a bit of a hurdle. But I am leaning toward option one. I think there is a lot of value that this study will bring. But what I'm interested to know is, what is Watson and Associates? What are they actually going to do? I get a little tired of this distance approach from consultants. Are they going to come into the township and actually walk through some of these processes and work with our directors and have a really up close and personal view of what is actually happening and not sort of from a distance?
Director Radigan.
Thank you, Marilyn. Through you to Councillor Moore. Based on the work plan that I did receive, there are numerous hours that are being allocated to staff interviews. And that's why you'll see option one versus option two that varies by the amount that you do is as a result of not speaking to staff directly. They are reducing the number of interviews. So there is quite an extensive interview process and walkthrough process with staff members.
Deputy Mayor Coughlin, then Councillor.
If I could just follow on, please.
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. And so I appreciate that. It does take up staff time. And, like Councillor Cabral said, we've done this fairly recently. So it does just detract from production, but I just need I need a confirmation that they will come in to the office and speak with people directly and follow processes from A to B and physically see what exactly is happening. I'd be happy to vote option one.
And you're reiterating, Director Radigan, that would be involved in option one. Is that correct?
Thank you, Marilyn. That is correct.
Okay. Deputy Mayor Coughlin.
Thank you. And further to the interaction with staff, is there an opportunity for interaction with members of the public, a public open house? Because there are concerns about whether a permit for a hot tub is more of an expense and a liability to the municipality than it is a benefit. Dog tags, burning permits. So there's so many permits and fees that are associated with these that residents have concern about. And would the residents also be involved in this process should consultants be hired at a comprehensive level?
We'll start with CAO Schmidt, then go to Director Radigan, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll be honest with you, I'm not as intimate with the proposed plan that Watson has proposed to Director Radigan, so maybe I can just defer that portion of the question to her.
Okay, please, Director Radigan.
Thank you, Marilyn, and through you to Deputy Mayor Coughlin. The scope does not include an external review or any open houses to receive resident input, mainly because I think we're looking for they're very distinct user fees versus resident taxpayers. So the idea is really not necessarily to receive input, more so than to ensure that we're collecting fees and taxpayers are not subsidizing more than what is required.
Follow on.
Thank you. And I guess a hope of mine from this would be that there are fees out there that I think come with a great cost to the municipality and may not have a benefit to the municipality, things that are just, we do it because we've always done it. And those are things that I think also need to be looked at, whether or not this is any longer an efficient practice for us to have. So would those be all, would that also be looked at, in that maybe we don't need to be charging that anymore? If it costs us more to have a building official go out 4 times to look at something, and the fee is $55 and the liability then becomes ours, I don't see the benefit in that. So I'm just curious if that would also be part of this process.
Director Radigan.
Thank you, Mayor Allen, and through you to Deputy Mayor Coughlin. That's exactly what this process will entail. It'll also look at fees that we're potentially not charging as well. So it is truly what CAO Schmidt had said earlier. It is starting at ground zero to determine what we should be charging as a user fee.
Councillor Ritchie.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. Mayor Allen, we border on the 6 municipalities. We're kind of like the hole in the donut. So if we exclude the city of Barrie, because they're the big boys in the block, they do their own thing. So if we look to the east and the west, Oro-Medonne, Clearview, the other municipalities, all well ran, great neighbors. They have building departments. They have, same as us, planning, building, fire services, all much the same as us. I think after 5 municipalities, we could draw a conclusion on our own as to where we stand. It's never been done. Then let's see where it goes. Let's see whether we can hire a student for the summer, somebody that's in planning or wanting to be a planner or whatever it is. I'll let staff decide and let them reach out and see what they come back with. And we got nothing to lose. And at the end of the day, we can always go back out and get Watson and Associates again. We seem to give these guys lots of work and lots of money. So I think for now, I'd be happy to just go through the process, hire the person, see what they come back with information. And then again, that information will be dependent on what they're given. So if it's the finance department, whoever it is, that lays out some kind of a criteria to ask and then gather this information and put it together and say, this is what we've come up with. These are what our municipalities are doing. And that'll go a long way too, is, we're vying to hire people just like these other municipalities are. I don't think you got to be a rocket scientist to do all this. I think they can come back with enough. We could sort it out ourselves, put it together, piece it together, and bring it to council, see what we have to say, and then we can always go back to Watson and Associates. That's what I think. Thank you.
Director Radigan, what are your thoughts on that?
Thank you, Mayor Allen, and through you to Councillor Ritchie. I absolutely agree. It is a process and past practice that we have already been doing in-house. I don't believe hiring a student or someone part-time would come back with different results. The idea of the comprehensive review is to complete a more in-depth analysis, which I do believe would be best completed through a consultant who has taken these types of studies on in the past. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else who hasn't had comments so far? Councillor Maude Chapman.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. And on Councillor Ritchie's comment, do we know if any other municipality has gone through this recently?
Director Radigan?
Deb?
Oh, I see CAO Schmidt has his card up. Go ahead. CAO?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Not necessarily to answer Councillor Moss Chapman's question. One of the other things that really maybe hasn't been said is that what you're paying for is their expertise and their knowledge in what they do. They've done this across Ontario and across Canada. They do these types of reviews. They have an exercise or a model in place that essentially you're paying for that model, if you will, to ensure that, again, our fees and charges are in line with what they should be. So that's really what you're paying for. You're paying for that expertise because this firm does provide for this service. Just add that.
Okay, Councillor Cabral and Councillor Hannah.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. Not to beat it to death, and I certainly understand where CO Schmidt's coming from. But when I'm hearing about an in-depth analysis and interviewing staff, when what we're really trying to do is find out how much it costs to get from point A to point B, I don't understand how that's relevant. If a permit comes in, someone spends 15 minutes on it, check off the box. How much did that 15 minutes cost? Where did it go next? They spent a half an hour on it, check off the box. For building permits, there's going to be an inspection or two included in the billing that already gets done. How long do they actually take? Because it varies. Sometimes they show up for 10 minutes. Sometimes they might be there a half an hour. So it's going to be hard to quantify them. We're still looking for an average. I just have a hard time, be it Watson and Associates or anybody else. Basically, this is just a time study of the fees that come across everybody's desk from the start to the finish and how long it takes them to accomplish that task so that we can arrive at a number, what we think it costs the municipality to do that particular or provide that particular service, and then decide what's a reasonable amount to ask the person who wants it to pay back. And I don't see $80,000, be it Watson or anybody else, coming in and doing that when it would just really be someone just sitting there with a sheet of paper says, yep, the permit came in here, so-and-so worked on it for 15 minutes. I don't know how many fees we actually have, but some of them are pretty mundane. There's only really 30 or 40 fees, I would suggest, that actually are in-depth and things that get processed down the line, like building permits and that kind of stuff. Even for a hot tub, as Mayor Coughlin said, we know what the process is going to be, and we know how long it's going to take, and that's where the dollar figure comes from. So I just, interviewing staff and in-depth interviews, I don't understand what that has to do with how much time is spent and what those periods of time cost in the end. And if we're talking time, how much time are we going to allocate for the hydro that's being used and all those little items that we don't take into account? You know, and if they've got a model, then I'd say that they're extremely overpriced.
Councillor Hannah?
Thank you, Mayor. And through you to CO Schmidt. Firstly, I do like what Councillor Ritchie said. I think that's a good suggestion that he had. But I'd also suggest that, if further to what CO Schmidt said, if the consultant has done this and provided reports to other municipalities, would those reports not be public, and could we not use them as a roadmap, if you like, to have somebody that we would hire to come in and do a review, or if you like, or an inspection or an audit of our expenses and our fees in Springwater?
Director Radigan, how public would such reports be for our viewing?
Thank you, Mayor Allen, and through you to Councillor Hannah as well. They have completed fees and charges studies, but all at different extents for different municipalities across Ontario. So they may not necessarily be comparable municipalities, and there's definitely no sharing of how conclusions were arrived at in terms of, let's say, there's definitely resources out there, but in terms of having a student, an untrained individual who doesn't have the expertise, I don't believe we would get value for money.
Deputy Mayor Coughlin?
Thank you, Mayor Allen, and I beg Council's indulgence in this, but let's just play out the two scenarios. We have hiring a student, someone with no expertise, no network, no firm to back them up. And then we have someone, a student that can come in and, as Councillor Cabral said, with paper and pen and sit at the desks. How many departments do we have that are going to be, this is development and non-development. So this isn't just development fees in the building department. This is across the municipality. So I've made an assumption that that would include recreation, bylaw, that would include customer service. It would be encompassing of all departments. So what are the numbers? This breaks down to numbers. We're looking at 60 and 80. What would the actual cost be to us if we were to hire someone with the same expertise as Watson and Associates, with the same, I'm going to call it, force behind them? Because I do agree. I don't like hiring consultants. I would rather hire full-time employees all day long. We know this about me. And I jump at the opportunity to do so. However, in this instance, I don't believe that hiring a student is going to bring us any more information than that if we were to simply have senior management provide us with an Excel spreadsheet of what that, we have that information already. We're looking for more information. We're looking for, moving forward, what are the fees? What increases are necessary? What decreases are necessary? And what fees do we not need to be charging anymore? That is something that I feel a consultant, a professional, someone with expertise and knowledge in this field needs to provide to us. However, I do support the idea that Councillor Hannah Cabral and Richie have brought forward in hiring someone in-house. But when I look at it, if they were to spend a month in one department, a month in another department, we're looking at getting this report back in a year from now. And that, to me, if a consultant, when I guess my first question would be, when would this report be coming back to this council?
Go ahead and you're with your other questions, and then Director Radigan, can you say it's your first question? Pose your questions and then.
It's my 20th.
Director Radigan, what would be the time frame?
Thank you, Mayor Allen. Through you to Deputy Mayor Coughlin. The idea of the report coming back, it would be in time for the approval of the 2023 budget. And so the idea would be to adopt it and create a 2023 and 2024 budget with those fees incorporated.
Follow on.
And do we feel that if we were to hire a student or a part-time individual, that same timeline would be met?
Director?
Thank you, Mayor Allen. Through you to Deputy Mayor Coughlin. That's a difficult one to answer. I believe it would really depend on the student's level of expertise and pretty much even the time and length that the student would be available for work.
And it also is dependent, I mean, the staff resources, you have to oversee a student, you'd have to guide them, you have to invest a considerable amount of staff time to get them on the right track, to have them checking back, to basically monitor. Whereas option one or option two, you're hiring professionals with expertise who know best practices, know comparables, and this hasn't been done for 10 years. So I'm supportive of either option one or option two. And quite frankly, for the extra 110 hours that option one involves over option two, I would be supportive of option one. Okay, let's bring this to some sort of conclusion. So who wants to propose an option or an amendment? Councillor Cabral?
Mayor Allen, I think I'd like to propose an amendment that it go back to staff to explore the opportunity of finding out if there's a university student they're out there that may be able to come and assist with us, because I found it very doubtful that Watson Associates is going to be able to provide someone at Springwater Township on a regular basis to interview all these people when they're only giving us a couple of 100 hours. And just by what you said, Mayor Allen, it looks like it's $200 or $300 an hour. I'm sure we could find a student, we could pay them even 25 bucks an hour and get a lot of mileage out of it. So I would like to propose that it go back to staff and to identify exactly what it is staff wants to do and how they expect it to be done, to track these permits, and whether or not a university student might be able to undertake that. Because the university student, yes, they might need a little bit of guidance, but they're not children. And at the same time, I think staff would have an opportunity then to have someone at their beck and call to give them this information. Not quite the same as Watson might, where they're not going to be there every day. The student likely will be there all the time and be able to monitor this stuff. So that would be my amendments.
Is there a seconder for that? Councillor Hannah, Clerk Ainsworth, you have that captured? Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. Through you to Councillor Cabral. Just to seek clarification on the portion you said about that the report provide details on collecting the data. Could you just elaborate that on a little bit so I can add it to the motion?
Specifics on what data is to be collected in order to assess the amount of time and money spent on any particular I don't know how to phrase it. I don't want to use the word permit, but activity that a resident may or may not have to pay for. Just, we don't know what the specifics are here. We're hearing about interviewing staff, and like if we're trying to find out how much it costs us to get a permit issued and what we should be charging and what it actually costs, I think having someone on site to actually follow it through the process and put the numbers down on a sheet of paper is the way to do it.
Clerk Ainsworth, do you have that then?
Thank you, Mayor Allen. Yes, it'll just be one moment, please.
Deputy Mayor Coghlan?
Thank you, Marilyn. And through you, further to Councillor Cabral's comment on what staff or what management, how they feel. And I do value, and CO Schmidt, through you, I do appreciate that you do speak on behalf of your staff, but if there are other members of senior management who have other insight, which would then be coming forward through this, I'm open to hearing from other levels. There may be things that this council hasn't considered, whether it's in building or in bylaw or anywhere else, recreation, why staff is supporting this, why senior management sees value in this. I think that I've interpreted correctly, but if there are other members of senior management that would have any insight for council, I would appreciate it.
We'll start with Director Radigan and then CEO Schmidt.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. Through to Deputy Mayor Coghlan. Before we did proceed with the RFP, we did reach out to directors and managers as well to get a better understanding of how or what their processes currently are, and if they would support a fees and charges study. A particular area where we wanted more of an in-depth review was with the infrastructure and operations department. I'm hoping that General Manager Romdeo can even provide specifics in terms of recouping some engineering costs through perhaps charging administrative fees that we're currently not charging. So it was kind of looking at engineering time spent. So it's not just your regular permits or your applications. It goes a lot further than that as well. I'll turn it over to CAO Schmidt for any.
Go ahead, CAO.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, I would just reiterate that it's a ground zero exercise where, it's never been done in the municipality. It is all encompassing. It would be providing for a fulsome review of all of our fees and charges, provide justification for what those fees and charges are. This firm does have the expertise. They have the model. They can come in. They can compare our model to others in the process. They can provide us with efficiencies as to, hang on a sec, why are you spending this amount of time on this process? Why are you essentially reviewing? Why is it taking you this long to review it? There could be efficiencies that they could provide through this review as well. And again, I will state that there are some fees in some areas, and I won't get into those areas, but I think based on my comment here, you might be able to glean some insight there that I'm not sure that they've been ever justified, and or sometimes there's inconsistencies with some of the fees that have been charged over the years. And we really need a fulsome review here to, again, set the stage, set the baseline. As I said earlier tonight, the township is growing, we're maturing, and this is part of our maturity, is to make sure that we have done this exercise so that we can justify our user fees to those individuals on a go-forward basis. And I'll leave it at that, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, Clerk Ainsworth?
Thank you. Councillor Cabral, please let me know if you'd like any changes. That the motion now before council be referred to staff, and that a further report be provided to outline specifics on what data is to be collected / processes to be undertaken in order to assess the costs of providing services or establishing permit costs, and outlining an option of hiring a student / temporary employee to complete the fees and charges study.
I'm happy with that. Thank you.
Okay, all those in favor? 1, 2, 3. Those opposed? 1, 2, 3, 4. That is defeated. So, Councillor Moore.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. I'd like to now propose option 1.
Okay, yeah, seconder to that. Councillor Ma Chapman.
I'm not going to vote for.
So the motion would be as outlined in the agenda, that the report from the Director of Finance regarding the award of comprehensive fees and charges review 2022-10-FIN dated May 4, 2022 be received, and that the comprehensive fees and charges review be awarded to Watson Associates Economists Limited, and that the mayor and clerk be authorized to execute the agreement, and that council provide direction with respect to the options outlined in this report, selecting option 1. And I won't bother reading all of what's under option 1 in the agenda as it's set out there. All those in favor?
I think we're going to get it.
Those opposed? That is carried. Thank you. Moving on to 10.2, which is Life Labs Occupancy Agreement Amendment Request. Can I have a mover and seconder to get this on the floor, please? Councillor Ahmad Chapman and Councillor Ritchie. Manager Brianna Dean, can you just give us an overview of the options? The report was quite thorough, so we don't need a detailed description, but the difference in the options and maybe potential reaction of Life Labs to the different options, please.
Thank you, Mayor Allen, and through yourself to council. So as provided in the report, there was 4 options outlined. The options were outlined so that council is able to see A, what the existing agreement is with Life Labs, and B, so what they have asked for an agreement, and also costs that are associated with the agreement. So that is to provide a full picture to council on the agreement that is currently in place, the request of an additional day, and what those, I'll call them, I guess, in kind, or what our agreement services with them do currently basically relate in terms of costs to the facility. So I have spoken to the manager of the services from Life Labs, and he has been shared a copy of the report and the different options out there. So Life Labs brought this request forward through the last couple of years, having additional wait times for the specimen collections at the specifically Elmville location. So they brought it forward as an option of having availability for an additional day for specimen collection in Elmville. And they wanted to reach out and see if there was the ability of the space, if that was something that council and the township would like to consider. So in terms of Life Labs, at this point, they are not seeking any additional expenses to oversee an additional day of specimen collection at the Life Labs facilities. As we obviously have our operational and maintenance expenses of the facility, they too have operational expenses of performing the service at the Life Labs collection center. So in 2012, from my understanding, the agreement was made made with the township to be able to offer the services to the residents of Springwater so that they didn't have to travel or to have to partake in the home care services offered by Life Labs. So if Life Labs wasn't present in Elmville or Springwater, or potentially a resident wasn't able to partake in the services on the day of, on the existing Tuesdays and Thursdays, they could seek the home care option, and that would come at an expense of $30 or plus to the resident seeking that expense. So this is a bit of a unique agreement, as not that Life Labs does not have other agreements with whether it be municipalities or physicians, but for them, this is a bit of a unique agreement in terms of it being a 2-hour collection period. And they do that because they don't then have to have equipment on site to house the specimen past the 2-hour time frame in which it would need to be collected and or stored in its location properly. So I hope that provides a little more insight and just gives a bit more of a background to the report. Also provides a bit of detail in regards to Life Labs. So they would like to continue their 2 days of services. If they can add an additional day, they think that will help their customer service, but they aren't necessarily seeking to have a financial I guess a financial implication to offering an additional day or an additional 2 hours of services.
Just before going to the cards, so option 3 or 4 is a non-starter for them because it involves a financial component to them, is a question.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. Josh would, the Life Labs representative would have to take it back to his counterparts, but at this time he doesn't believe that they would be looking to take on additional financial implications.
Okay, Councillor Cabral.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. Familiar with that. I know a number of people who frequent the clinic there. And to be quite honest with you, there's a number of people in Elmvale that don't have regular transportation, in particular, some of our seniors who manage to get down there. It also does, after they get down there and do something, a lot of them might go for a bite to eat or might go for a coffee or something. So there's a bit of an economic stimulus to it. They've been there providing that service now as a result of an agreement with council of the past. And I would certainly like to see it continue simply for the residents who live in the area so that they don't have to go outside the area to get their blood tests done. Of course, it's not lost on me either that Life Labs is a for-profit organization that provides laboratory services. And some of their locations, obviously, they're paying rent for. This is a unique situation. The only thing I think that would I find might be palatable or at least reasonable would be to ask them if they would at least be able to pay the at cost for cleaning. I don't imagine there's a whole lot of anything goes on in there. I mean, people walk in, sit down, get their blood taken, and then they're out. There's not really much in the way of cleaning other than maybe sweeping the floor and wiping down the counters, I would think. So I kind of see the $200 as being somewhat excessive. I'd like to see something from staff that says this is exactly what it costs to clean it. It might be, $150 a month. And the only reason I say that 200 is excessive is in the report, it did allude to the fact that 66 times this past year, snow removal, they're considering snow removal as part of it. And I kind of struggle with that because snow removal at that community parking lot and on the sidewalks and on the streets is going to take place whether Life Labs is there or not. So I would kind of like to see them continue, and if need be, at no cost, because it's a service to the community. However, I think it's reasonable to reach out to them and say, hey, listen, someone has to clean the floor and wipe down those counters. And we would like to you to kick in that amount, at least for the cleaning aspect of it. So okay. I'm kind of looking at option 3. but have something from staff to let us know exactly what the cleaning costs are, because 200 a week seems rather excessive.
What are the actual costs then? We see a 200 number, we see a 600 number. What are the actual costs? There's cleaning plus any other costs, Manager Dean?
Thank you, Mayor Allen, and through you to Councillor Cabral and the rest of council. So yes, so that number does include, as Councillor Cabral stated, a percentage of snow maintenance. That was included just based on the priority of how routes would be cleared. So for example, the 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. would mean that it was cleared on those days potentially at a higher priority than it would be cleared on days if the building was not in use to a later time or not necessarily rented or had a user group in it at that time. So I can go back and, break out the background as Councillor Cabral requested for kind of the I guess the true just at cleaning cost. And as stated, as it is a medical facility, there is certain requirements for the cleaning. And as we currently under the agreement have that, we just basically have to provide a bit more than just a touch point cleaning in between the services each day.
Other comments? Councillor Marchand.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. And through to you, to Manager Dean, if we did add an expense to that, did they acknowledge that maybe they would leave Elmville and go somewhere else? Second of all, I think it is a great thing that we have there in Elmville, because I know even a lot of people within Springwater has gone to that, not necessarily Elmville, and I believe it's the only walk-in. I don't think you have to make an appointment. For the rest, you have to make an appointment. So that's a plus for that. And I don't think we want to lose that. I also agree with Councillor Cabral that maybe they can pick up at least the cleaning cost of those 3 days.
Manager Dean.
Sorry, couldn't find my mute button. Through you, Mayor Allen, to Councillor Ma Chapman. It is correct. It is a walk-in service, so it doesn't have to be booked. They didn't state that they would necessarily be looking not to offer the service in Elmville. They do see the value of offering that service in Elmville. So it would definitely be taking it back for a further conversation with them, and potentially, some back and forth with Life Labs to seeing exactly what may be, financially possible from their side. And just a further, GM Ramdeo was able to pull up the cell sheet that we had worked on in the background. So we have the cleaning at $119.85 per day, which includes the overheads, the traveling, and the cleaning supplies. So that's all inclusive of the vehicle, the traveling, the labor, and the materials used for that.
Okay, Councillor Ritchie.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. I find these costs here, when I read this, I find them to be excessive. But having said that, I just, to the point where I support Councillor Cabral and go back and have a chat with these people. I was there Tuesday morning. I was just yesterday morning to get my blood work done. I got there at 6:45 and I was already standing in a lineup, already out into the parking lot. Get there and anyway, she wasn't long whisking us through. I left and I came back again around 9 o'clock just as they were finished. I went in there and I just kind of eyeballed it up. I didn't take a measuring tape or anything, but I came out with about total area 700 square feet. That's including the 2 bathrooms. They got 6 chairs and 2 benches, and each bench doesn't exceed 5 feet. So there's not a lot of area there to clean. As far as the cleaning itself goes, she cleans the chair and takes her own equipment back with her, and it's all clean. So there's not much cleaning there to do. That's why I'm having a problem with these numbers. Now in the wintertime, you have mud and snow. It could be different there to get it wiped up. So Mayor Allen, like, I mean, speaking to this girl that, and she just does a fabulous job. She's great with the people. We've got people coming in from Collingwood, Midland, Coldwater, from all over. This here, Mayor Allen, is economic development and a story. People come in, they get their blood work done, they go and eat breakfast, they go to the bake shop, they go and shop. And I was part of this team back in 2010 when I ran my first time as a councillor. If I could just briefly explain, there was myself, there was the Mayor Linda Collins and Deputy Mayor Dan McLean, and a shout out to the two of them. We were 2 years dealing with the politics of the medical system to get these guys back. We were so happy to have, it was the Linds at the time that stepped in and helped us. Life Labs agreed, and we offered it to them with what you see there now. And it's done nothing but just expand and grow, and they want to come back for a third day. I support the third day. I don't want to see them leave. And having said that, if there's some cleaning that they could do on their own, we got to clean the parking lot and keep it clean anyways for insurance purposes. So we're already there. Anyways, I support the extra day. If we could go back and have a talk with them and see where that falls out at. Those are my comments.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Coughlin.
Thank you, Marilyn. I would like to see this expand to the third day and remain status quo. I think that Councilor Cabral and Councilor Ritchie are right, that this does provide an economic spin-off, but at the same time, it provides a service to our residents. So I don't think that it's broken. I don't think that it needs to be fixed. It needs to be expanded. And in speaking with Manager Dean, the extra expenses or costs of the municipality are minimal. And I think that it provides a great service to all the residents of Springwater. So I would like to see this continue to move forward, status quo, however, with the expanded day.
So you're saying option 2 you're proposing?
Yes, thank you.
Councillor Moore?
Thank you, Mayor Allen. The cleaning fees are a little expensive. I don't want to see the lab leave. They provide a valuable service to folks from as far as Wasaga. But what if, and is there an opportunity possibly to even provide them the cleaning supplies? We're already purchasing them. We're purchasing them plus right now. But I think that if we go back, if Manager Dean could go back and ask if we could negotiate something with them, they are getting a lot for nothing. Although providing a good service, I know that they pay in other locations. So what about even if we just go back, see if we could supply maybe a few cleaning tools to make it easier for them to manage on their own?
And Jadine, what are your thoughts on that?
Thank you, Mayor Allen, through you to Councilor Moore and the rest of council. I can definitely discuss it with them in conversation with the manager of the assessment services there. I do not believe the person, at the most part, it is one person there by herself the whole time. And based on the time frame and having to have the specimen back in I guess the proper equipment to store it. They are pretty tight on their timing to get out of there. And so again, I can definitely reach back out to Life Labs. I don't know if that would be a possibility to them just in terms of timing.
Or potentially, sorry, as a follow-on. And even if the staff isn't able for those reasons, then possibly they could third party the service themselves by providing supplies like we do at home.
Okay, Councillor Hannah.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a question for clarification. The person that cleans the hall, is that a separate outside agency, or is it the same person that works for the township that cleans our community halls?
Andrew Dean.
Thank you, Mayor Allen, through you to Councillor Hannah. That is correct. It is a township staff member that does facility cleaning throughout the township.
So
now, do they come in, sorry, Councillor Hannah, do they come in specifically to do that, or is that part of what they're otherwise cleaning in a day, in those days?
Thank you. So it would be part of their cleaning route, and typically it would be scheduled amongst their other duties. So timing could vary based on the uses of other facilities within that day or week.
Councillor Hannah, did you have a follow-on?
Yeah, thank you. So I think we're both thinking down the same road here. If they're already employed, they're already out there cleaning, there's really no additional costs for them to come to clean the medical facility, correct?
Well, yeah, that's okay. Councillor Mott Chapman, did you have a point?
Thank you, Mayor Allen. Just on top of the cleaning, they wouldn't, as Manager Dean said, it was on their daily or on their route, but they wouldn't be cleaning 3 days a week on their daily route, correct? They would be cleaning probably once a week, maybe, not the 3 times.
Manager Dean? Yeah, she's nodding to the affirmative. Councillor Cabral.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. I just want to be clear on this. If I'm not mistaken, I got the impression, Manager Dean, through Mayor Allen to you, we're talking $119 a week, not $119 a day.
Yeah.
Okay, because I thought it was somewhere along the line here during the conversation, it seemed like it was $119 a day. Given that they haven't, it's been status quo as Deputy Mayor Coghlan specified, you know, I'd like to see them kick in $119. You know, it's a for-profit organization, but it also provides a service that this council, previous to, went out of the way to try and adopt. And so I'm happy with option 2, status quo, go for the 3rd day.
Wait, sorry, I'm not clear. You're saying you're happy with option 2, which means they don't pay anything, but they get the 3rd day.
Yeah, I'm happy. It'd be nice if they would, Mayor Allen, but it's $119 a week, and they haven't been paying it for the last 5 years or whatever now. So, you know, they're asking for an extra day. It's really only 2 hours, and I think that office area, that's the only time it gets used. 2 hours a day. Now it'll be 2 hours a day for 3 days. So I'm okay with option 2. It'd be nice if they would pick up a bit of the tab, but.
Deputy Mayor Coghlan.
Thank you, Marilyn. And just curious if Councillor Cabral would it be possible then to say if they want the 3rd day, it's going to cost them $119? Like, we will stay the way that it is if that's what they want. I just don't want to see the service leave, and
No,
I don't think they will.
Sorry, I don't either. That's why I was saying option 3 was basically saying, let's go with option 3 and we'll accept it and approve it in principle, but have staff reach out to them and see if they can agree to pay the $119.
So option 3, but change the 200 to 119. Is that what you're saying?
Basically 119, or if there's another number, whatever it might be, and that wouldn't nullify it, but ask that staff go back out to them and see if that'll be accommodated, with the understanding that if they don't want to pay, we're still going to move forward, I guess.
Don't tell them that, Councillor Cabral.
I'm sorry?
So don't tell them that, Councillor Cabral. This is public meeting.
It's out there now.
CAO Schmidt.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you to members of council. So staff's happy to bring this back. If you're looking at pursuing option 3, we can definitely sit down with representatives from Life Labs to see if there's an opportunity for them to pick up some of the costs, and we can report back to council as to whether or not they've accepted that or not. So again, staff, just so we're clear though, staff presented this report tonight, not in any way, shape, or form suggesting that we want this service to leave. We know it's a benefit to the community. It's just simply indicating to council and providing the information to let you know there is a cost, and you know what, you make the decision obviously as to how you want to proceed here. So again, no indication from staff that we don't want the service. It's a benefit to the community, absolutely.
Councillor Ritchie.
Mayor Allen, regardless of whatever number you want to put on it, you know, when you see the people in there, I gave my seat up to an old lady that's been coming there, and you just sense that they're so happy that, they can come and get their blood work done. And I don't want to throw a wrench into the gears here, but, the other part there, a nurse practitioner just started back today, as far as I know. Manager Dean might know better than me. Now they're in there for 1 day. Now who cleans that? Are we cleaning that? So and that's just something you might want to just discuss with them. But in the grand scheme of things, like where I'm coming from here, if you want an extra day, gladly give it to you. But what are you paying in other places? A few bucks. Why don't you do the cleaning? And if it's a big fat no, well, okay, we tried, but carry on, keep doing what you're doing because we need you. End of story.
Okay, Manager Dean, were you aware of the nurse practitioner?
Thank you, Mayor Allen. That's correct. For the nurse practitioner, we do clean so before or after, so in between any other uses around the days of the nurse practitioner being in there. They were not in there due to the pandemic and from one of their staff members being on a leave, but yes, they were looking to get restarted in Elmville and they are happy to be back in there.
Follow on, Councillor Ritchie.
Alan, I just want to add there, like in our office where I am here, we pay 2 people $50 to come in. They vacuum, we got carpet. There's no carpet or anything in this building. It's all terrazzo. We had that all done when we got it renovated there for the blood services and the nurse practitioner. So $50. They come in, they do the bathrooms, they vacuum. So that's why I have a hard time with these numbers here. So
okay,
I don't want to lose them. So
okay, between Deputy Mayor Coughlin and Councillor Cabral, we've talked about option 2, option 3, with the reduced costs that General Manager Ramdale said are the actual cost of $119. So what do you want to finalize to go forward then? Deputy Mayor Coughlin?
Thank you, Marilyn. I think that having staff continue the conversation, I think that it is a for-profit organization. We charge residents. If you're going to have a Buck and Doe or a market or whatever it is, we do charge people for use of our hall because there are costs associated with it. This is a for-profit organization. They do provide a service to our community. I think that it is in our best interest to negotiate some sort of cost recovery. I don't want to see it leave. I do want to see it expand. So if there is an amendment or if we simply go with a third option, that is, I'm at the will of the local ward councillor.
Okay, so you're moving option 3. Councillor Cabral, you're seconding that, are you?
Okay.
Yes. Did you want to make a final point, Councillor Ma Chapman?
Thank you, Mayor Allen. I was just going to say option 3 and make it a straight $100 instead of $119.
Well, why don't we leave it to Manager Dean to coordinate with General Manager Ramdale and just confirm what the costs are, and it wouldn't be any more than 120, and it might be 100 for the amount of difference. It's not going to break the bank. So, okay, can we go ahead and vote on this then? Option 3, Councillor Ritchie, final.
Yes. Can we not just go ahead with the extra day and send this back to staff? Feel about.
Well, I think what we're doing that by option 3, indicating that we want to not to give the third day for nothing, and to explore what the dollar amount would be, whether it's 100, 119, but it won't be the 200.
Okay. And
Okay.
let them report back to the council.
Clerk Ainsworth.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. I would suggest removing the number and putting just cleaning costs. And then that way, when staff do come back, it would give that opportunity.
It's all right with the mover and seconder? Nodding heads. Good. All right. So the motion is with option 3. All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Action reports, mover and seconder to get those on the table. That's at 11.1. Councillor Cabral, Councillor Ma Chapman. We have 11.2 through 11.8. Any questions or desire to pull any items? Councillor Hannah?
Questions on 11.5 and 11.6, please.
Okay, Counselor Moore,
Like 11-4, please.
question? A
I
question?
think it's a discussion.
So pulling it,
Yes, please.
11-4. Counselor Maud Chapman,
I just had a comment. Thank you, Mary Ellen. A comment at 11-4, but I'll wait till it's pulled. And
Okay.
I comment at 11-8. Are we deciding that tonight on sponsorship or just receiving it?
no, it's, well, the motion put forward by the subcommittee was deciding, making a recommendation with respect to sponsorship. So we are either adopting that recommendation or coming up with something else by this being on there as an action report. So would you like to discuss it further by way of a question or pulling it? Councilor Chapman,
Let's pull it.
pull it. That's 11-8. Okay. Okay, question on 11-5, Counselor Hannah.
Thank you, Mayor, and through you to Director Radigan. I have to say, I really enjoyed reading that report. I thought it was quite interesting. Couple of quick questions, because don't take a while, the rest of this. It talks about 1 hectare and you on 300 units. If we don't want to take cash in lieu, we can get 1 hectare of parkland for every 300 acres. If we want to take cash in lieu, you get the value of 1 hectare for 500 units. My question is, and I know that's not in our bylaw, but is that a Development Charges Act policy, those 300 to 500, where does that come from? Because it doesn't make sense to me that it should be 300 if you take the parkland units or 500 units if you want cash in lieu. First question. I have a couple more.
Director Radigan.
Thank you for you, Mayor Allen, to Councillor Hannah. I am fairly new to the cash in lieu of parkland and dedication of parkland fees, so I will refer it over to CAO Smith to respond to this question.
CAO Schmidt.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councilor Hannah. The parkland dedication piece, I believe, is through the Planning Act. And so I may need to draw upon Director Spagnol's experience here. Again, I believe it's an option that's provided to a municipality. I don't believe that we've taken that option. We simply have gone the route of either the 2% or the 5% cash in lieu, if you will, and or dedication. So Director Spagnol, I'm not sure if you can provide further information on that piece.
Puck's over to you, Director Spagnol.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. CEO Schmidt is correct. There's the option to do that by way of a bylaw at the municipal level, and the powers are provided within the Planning Act to do so. So the report would take a look at those options and take a look at how charges are being applied to date, and then provide essentially, my understanding is a recommendation as to which way to go to inform staff's decisions, possibly to bring something forward to council to maybe refine the existing parkland bylaw.
Councillor Hannah.
Thank you. I just got a couple of follow-ups and I'll be quick. So if it's 300 units, you can take cash in lieu of 500 units. But if you're taking cash in lieu on 500 units, is the cash value based on the 1 hectare you get for 500 units, or is it based on 2% or 5%, whichever we choose to go with per lot or per unit?
Director Spagnol.
I think, Mayor Allen, through to Councillor Hannah, I think it'd probably be best for Councillor Hannah and I to have a discussion afterwards, take a look at the act and how it reads. But what would happen is the report would definitely take a look at the benefits to each, and there would have to be some form of direction as to what would be the best way for the municipality to move forward with parkland and cash in lieu. So I'd be happy to talk to Councillor Hannah after offline about the Planning Act and how this all comes about.
Okay, 2 more quick follow-ups, please.
Okay.
I was going here. Okay, I will talk to you before the week's over, hopefully. My next question was, if we take a look at the subdivision, and I hope all of council notices that when we take a look at subdivision plans, you see the lots, you see all the streets, parkland looks pretty small to me. So I'm not big on taking cash in lieu, especially when people come and move to what you might call the urban area, or I'm sorry, the rural area, and they expect to have some open space. So I'm not a big fan of cash in lieu of parkland. I think we need the open space. That's just my comment. If we could quickly think about what's on page 4, the diagram, and I thought the diagram was really interesting. It gives the value of the property, if you like, in different parts of our township. And it shows you, for example, Anton Mills, $9,500 or 5%. Are we always taking 2% or are we going to be taking 5%? I just couldn't quite understand how that chart, I found it interesting, but I couldn't understand exactly what that chart, it's page 4 under the heading fees and charges, Schedule H.
Director Spagnol?
Thank you, Mayor Allen, through to Councillor Hannah. What the chart on page 4 represents is a study that was done by the township to specifically assign a cash value for the 5% figure for consents and severances. So if it's a residential severance, then it's the 5%. But if it's tied to a commercial type application, then it's 2%. And staff have been applying that cash in lieu of parkland schedule for all severances that have come forward through the municipality since it was brought forward, and I believe it was 2016.
Okay, quickly, what's the 9,500 stand for then? It says 9,500 or 5%.
Okay, so thank you, Mayor Allen, through to Councillor Hannah. So the way that this is set up is the applicant has the option to either calculate what 5% of the land value would be or just pay the flat rate. So essentially the land appraisal that would be provided would have to be prepared by the developer or the applicant, then reviewed and peer reviewed by the municipality to land on what the actual rate is, or the developer can just pay the flat rate, being the $9,500.
Thank you.
CEO Schmidt, did you have anything to add? No. Okay, Councillor Cabral.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. And it's along the lines of what Councillor Hannah was asking. And I just want to know, is the 9,500 the absolute? I guess what I'd like to know through you, Mayor Allen, to Director Spagnol, if we look at Anton Mills, you're saying $9,500 or 5% of the appraised value. So if the property's worth $1 million, 5% would be $50,000. Would they then just be liable for the 9,500, or would we be asking them for the $50,000? I just want to know, is it their choice or our choice?
Director Spagnol.
Thank you, Mayor Allen, through to Councillor Cabral. It is the applicant's choice, just on the basis that it would be the applicant that would have to conduct a more up-to-date appraisal. So the appraisal that was done for this specific schedule was done in 2018 based on land values and market values. So it is left at this point up to the applicant to determine which road they want to take with respect to the payment of that charge.
All right. So for them, it would be whichever one's the cheapest, I would think. Fair enough. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, Deputy Mayor Coughlin.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. And at your will, just a few questions for Director Spagnol. When there are DCs applied, so if there is a lot severance by a resident and that resident is in Elmville, are those DCs specific to Elmville? The parkland dedication, is that just specific to Elmville?
Director Spagnol.
Thank you, Mayor Allen, through to Deputy Mayor Coughlin. My understanding is that those charges are not specific to Elmville, that they are spread across throughout the township.
And would that then apply to subdivision agreements or subdivision DCs for parkland? That would then become a municipal wide fee, essentially. Yes.
Yes.
And then second to that is, and much, I do agree with Councilor Hannah that creating parkland or open spaces is great, but when you take, for instance, areas like Fergusonville, where we had one subdivision, it was one street, which was a dead end with a cul-de-sac, and they created a park. And then when the second loop came onto that, they decided that it was in the developer's best interest to build a park. So now we have two parks in a subdivision that are underutilized, where one park would have been more than sufficient for that subdivision. And those fees could have been then applied to other areas of the municipality because it's not specific to the area. So we could have made other parks accessible. We could have added exercise equipment, whatever we wanted to do. So understanding that parkland dedication fees are not specific to the area, sometimes getting the cash is what we need to do. We don't need little tiny subdivision parks throughout every single hamlet that we do have. So I think that it becomes a per applicant decision. And I think that taking a big picture approach to how we provide parks in the area, because we do have a lot of little parkettes, not necessarily community parks, but we do have a lot of little parkettes that may not be utilized as much as they should, and may not be servicing the community as best that they want.
Any comment on that, Director Spagel?
Mayor Allen, I think the only comment that I have is that when reports and when development proposals come in, staff would tend to take a look at, parks and recreation master plans, to take a look at the need for functional parks. Generally speaking, when there are smaller developments, there's always a review of what parks are located within that general location and whether or not we're over-serving with respect to park space. So I agree that, it's kind of a balance between the two. There's a wider township interest that needs to be looked at with the larger developments, but with the smaller developments, if there isn't the need for parkland because there's already existing parks there, then that's definitely a consideration that needs to go on an application by application basis.
Follow on.
Thank you. And do staff have the ability to indicate to a proponent that they cannot provide parkland and they need to provide fee in lieu of, or is that a decision of council?
Director Spagel?
I think, Mayor Allen, through to Deputy Mayor Coughlin, ultimately staff can recommend through a report and to the developer what staff feels is needed, but it is the decision of council at the end of the day.
Yeah. Okay. We've got to be careful that the conversation here is engaging a consultant for the study versus what council wants to see in the policy. So I appreciate the details, but what this action report is looking at is whether we engage a consultant to do this. Final comment then, Councillor Hannah.
Oh, thank you. And I just want to respond to the Deputy Mayor's observations. Yeah, like all rules and policies, you got to apply them with common sense, and I trust the staff do that, but we need to be conscious not to give away all our parkland.
Yep. Okay, moving on to 11.6. Councillor Hannah, you had a question about that?
Oh, yes, please. Again, another good report. On page 8, item number 7, it talks about how the whole report talks about how we were able to save money during the COVID by not having to make a lot of expenditures for different things. But it doesn't, on item 7 there, it states about the areas where we were unable to save money. And that first paragraph in section 7, it states OMERS, and that we had to pay OMERS out to staff and council. So my question is, through you, Mayor, to Director Radican, is there any members of council other than myself that do not receive OMERS payments?
Director Radican?
Thank you, Mayor Allen, through you to Councillor Hannah. I believe that'd be a question that I would have to refer to our HR department, because I don't have that information off the top of my head.
Okay, thank you. And I think my observation is that is if age discrimination is a problem that I think is going to arise if this continues, because Ontario Human Rights Code is very clear that you can't discriminate against somebody because of age, and that affects employers. So I think it's a discussion that probably you and I, Director Radigan and CEO Schmidt are going to have. So I just wanted to point that out. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Coughlin.
Thank you. And I think further to that, I think that council's conversation at the beginning of our term with age discrimination and moving to Honeybee away from the other providers, as it didn't discriminate on age. But to be quite frank, I don't know. I don't know if there's other members of council that aren't receiving OMERS aside from any other publicly funded pension. So I'm not sure about that, but I think that the move towards a more inclusive benefit package, where it did allow members of council, regardless of age or family or life circumstance, was a good move on behalf of this council.
Director Radigan.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. And through you, just to comment on the OMERS piece, there will be a report coming to council in terms of council remuneration, which will look at the benefits piece as well, and allow council to make further decisions on whether they wish to make changes to that or not. But the majority of the savings here is not necessarily directly related to OMERS. It is largely related to staff gapping and the variances that we did see throughout 2021.
Okay, Councillor Cabral.
Yeah, Mayor Allen, I may as well point out that I'm not able to participate in OMERS. So to be quite frank, I've been disadvantaged, much in the same way that Councillor Hanna is advising now, in that I'm not benefiting from OMERS as the other members of council are as well. So if you were wondering if there was anybody else, yes, there is.
Okay, thank you. All right, so we have the mover and seconder for the action reports. 11.2, that the recommendation contained therein as approved as presented. 11.2, the drainage agreement acceptance. 11.3, park lot control exemption. PLC 2022-001 Carson Road Development Mix. 11.5 Development Charges Background Study Bylaw and Parkland Dedication Analysis. 11.6 Budget and Business Plan Unaudited Year-End Financial Results as of December 31, 2021. 11.7 ZB 2020-015 First Elm Holding Inc., Re Walton, with the exception of 11.4 and 11.8, which have been pulled. All those in favor? That is carried. Okay, going to 11.4. A mover and seconder to get this on the floor. Councillor Moore, you're moving it?
Yes.
And Deputy Mayor Coughlin. Go ahead, Councillor Moore.
I'm aware that I may be too late for this. It was passed in the budget, I realized. But in speaking with one of the other councillors today, Councillor Ritchie, you brought up a very, very good point. And I wondered why the township is not moving toward electric vehicles or more sort of climate friendly type vehicles, or even looking at power station at the township office for recharging, and sort of why we're not moving that way, certainly with the cost of gas the way it is. I think it's worth a consideration.
Appears the mayor may be frozen.
I thought it was me frozen.
Oh, and he may be back on now. Okay.
Sorry, I got kicked out for some reason. Can you hear me all right?
Yes, thank you. Councillor Moore may need to repeat her question.
All I heard was electric vehicles. Yep.
Oh. So, thank you. What I was saying is, given the current situation with fuel, and not just that, but hopefully moving toward a more climate minded and climate friendly environment within the municipality. I know that we have initiatives working toward that. Why we're not looking at electric vehicles, or why we're not looking at a power station at the township office. And like I say, really, this came from Councillor Ritchie, because I had this conversation with him earlier today. And I'd appreciate if he could maybe comment also before we go to the group.
Okay, Councillor Ritchie, expand on that.
Alan, if you don't mind, I'd like to let staff respond first, and then I'll speak. How's that?
Okay, General Manager Ramdale.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. I see, before I respond, okay, you went off. Yes, to Councillor Moore and to Councillor Ritchie, we did investigate the potential of electric pickup trucks. We also investigated the potential of, and this bid was actually allowed the option of hybrid. Unfortunately, on the electric pickup trucks, they're sold out until next year. It's not even we can order the 2023 and get it this year. It's not available until next year. So as staff and discussion with staff, the need is there. So we made a decision to proceed with these three now, knowing that the future purchases will likely be either electric or hybrid. That's where we are going. We're tending as a fleet. We recently purchased some SUVs for the building department, and those are hybrid. Because those were what was available at this point in time.
Okay, Councillor Ritchie.
Mayor Allen, since speaking with Councillor Moore this afternoon, I did go ahead and draft a notice of motion about this. So I either bring it up and put it on the floor now, or I wait and do it at the appropriate time. It's your call, or up to the clerk.
Let's do it at notice of motion.
All right.
Time. I see C.A.O. Schmidt. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Councillor Ritchie and Councillor Moore. Councillor Moore, I think you were starting to allude to this, but just so that maybe to refresh Council's minds, you through the 2022 budget, Council did approve, or maybe subsequent to that, did approve a program change for us, for the township to move forward with our climate change action plan in partnership with SSEA and through the FCM program. So we are still in the preliminary stages of walking through that. And these are definitely things that need to be considered as part of that climate change initiative. So again, I would maybe have council consider that those are things that will be brought forward through that plan. It is definitely something, as General Manager Ramdale mentioned, we are thinking about and trying to move forward. And maybe I'll leave it at that for now, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Clerk Ainsworth.
Thank you, Mayor Allen, through you. Just a note on Councillor Ritchie's potential notice of motion. If it has a direct impact on this recommendation before council, then it may be appropriate as an amendment. It really depends on what the wording is for that motion.
Councillor Ritchie, you could propose an amendment to this if you wish.
Do you want me to read it out?
Sure, go ahead.
All right. Be it resolved that council directs staff Public Works to bring back the council report on the cost of installing a charging station. Or
Councillor Ritchie, you're breaking up. We can't hear you actually. So are you talking right into your computer mic? Because we couldn't hear that.
Let me put it right here in front of me here. So
that's better.
I took my glasses off so I could see better. Be it resolved that council directs staff Public Works to bring back to council a report on the cost of installing a charging system, a charging station, or two, and to be put in the parking lot at the administration center or Public Works yard and further to find out what grants or government money there is available for this and electric vehicles, which would be ideal for the building department and bylaw department. That's my notice of motion.
Okay, Clerk Ainsworth?
Thank you, Mayor Allen. So yes, that would be most appropriate through the notice of motion
Yeah.
versus an amendment.
Okay, so we'll swing around at that point in time. Thank you. Other questions with respect to this recommendation? Councillor Ma Chapman?
Thank you, Mayor Allen. My question is, so the 3 trucks that we're replacing, what do we do with the old trucks? Are they scrap or we trade, or what's the decision?
General Manager Ramdale?
Yes, Mayor Allen, through you to Councillor Ma Chapman. These vehicles are past their useful life. They are all in excess of high 200 kilometers. So they will be put on Gov deal for sale per the bylaw.
Okay. All right, the motion reads that the report from the General Manager of Infrastructure Operations regarding the award of tender for supply of 3 pickup trucks, 2022-15-PW dated May 4, 2022 be received, and that council authorize the award of the contract for the supply of 3 pickup trucks as outlined in this report, and that council authorize additional funds of 1,024.25 be appropriated from the tax capital reserve. All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. 11.8. 11.8. Can I have which is the Barry Baycat sponsorship? Councillor Ma Chapman moving and seconder to get this on the floor, please. Councillor Moore. Go ahead, Councillor Ma Chapman.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. I just reread it. So I was thinking that we had to make an vote on an option of a different sponsorship, but I see that staff has presented with all those options within the sponsorship. I thought we had to pick a couple of them, but I see that it's supplied as all 4 of them. Am I correct?
Yes, it's not sponsoring. It's not sponsoring them. Maybe Planner Brianna Belcourt, can you just expand or summarize? I mean.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Allen. Through you to Councillor Ma Chapman. The recommendation that resulted from the discussions with Economic Development Advisory was that council do not approve a sponsorship for the Barry Baycats this season. In the report, we did identify, however, some alternate options in case council did not choose to proceed with that recommendation of the Economic Development Advisory Committee and wanted to look at other options. So we just provided a summary of a few of the long list of options.
Councillor Ma Chapman.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. I just need the clarification. So either no, we're not sponsoring them, or we're sponsoring them through a different way.
Planner Belcourt.
Or not at all, or not at all.
Through you, Mayor Allen, to Councillor Ma Chapman. The recommendation is not to proceed with sponsorship at all. However, council could choose to continue with the existing sponsorship or choose an alternate option if they amended the motion, I guess. But the recommendation is not to proceed with sponsorship this season.
Yeah. Follow on.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. So I just would like to know from the rest of council what their thoughts are, whether not to sponsor at all or go with staff's recommendation with those 4 other options, which is sort of sponsorship in different ways.
Just to clarify, I don't think it was staff's recommendation, the other options. It was just setting out the other options. I'll go to Deputy Mayor Colgan, then CAO Schmidt.
Thank you, Marilyn. And I guess to my disadvantage, this sponsorship was not, I was not aware of this prior to our last meeting. I don't see a benefit of this to the residents of Springwater. I think that when members of our municipality drive or attend a game at the location, they pass many Springwater signs, including the new one that we've purchased to put out front of the admin building. We don't put up any sponsorship in any other City of Barrie facilities. And I think that we should make sure that our any money that we put into economic development in through recreation goes to Springwater locations. I don't see value in this myself, and I am happy to ensure that we don't proceed with this.
CEO Schmidt.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Councillor Mott Chapman. Just to clarify, Councillor Mott Chapman, staff is not recommending a sponsorship. I believe what Planner Belcourt was mentioning is that there are other options should council wish to continue with a sponsorship. But through the discussion we had with the Economic Development Advisory Committee, the end decision was not to consider a sponsorship for 2022.
Okay, follow on, Councillor.
I just want to thank you, Mayor Allen. I just want to thank you for clarifying that. I was unsure.
Okay. All right, the recommendation is that the report from the planner regarding the Barrie Baycat sponsorship for the 2022 season dated May 4, 2022 be received, and that in agreement with the Economic Development Advisory Committee, Council does not approve the sponsorship for the Barrie Baycats for the 2022 season. All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Moving on to 12.1 information reports. Mover and seconder to get this on the floor, please. Councillor Cabral, Councillor Mott Chapman. The official plan review update and the 2021 annual accessibility status report. Any questions, comments with respect to either of these? Okay, the motion is that they be received for information. All those in favor? That is carried. Verbal reports, item 13. We've covered official plan update and economic development update. Director Spagnell just flashed on and then flashed off. Any further comment, Director Spagnell?
No, Mayor Allen, no need to pass me the puck. I'll probably miss the net. Thank you.
No. You score every time. Okay, and economic development we've heard about, so we will go to General Manager Ramdale for the Midhurst development update.
Good evening, Mayor Allen. Thank you. Deputy Mayor Coughlin, members of council. I'll begin this evening with the effluent main. The works are now on Wilson Drive, and the contractor is working from the area around the rail crossing going north towards Highway 26. Most of that work will be by drilling, so there wouldn't be open excavation except where they start the drilling and where they will end the drilling. So it'll just be localized traffic impacts at that point in time. Earlier today, we issued, or we will issue before the day is out, a construction and traffic advisory notice via social media and our website. The same advisory will be in the May 12th edition of the Springwater Link, just advising the public about the construction work and the potential for traffic disruption, and for them to take alternate routes if possible. Moving on to the new traffic signals at Snow Valley and Wilson, the contractor needs the locates before mobilizing to the site. They have requested the locates, and staff are working with the contractor to firm the date for them to come onto site. At this point, it's looking to be May 16th when they will mobilize to the site and commence work. Once they commence work, we're looking at about 6 weeks. As for the new homes, CBO Verstraeten did advise me that we've now issued 59 building permits as of today. And as at the last count, 25 houses were under construction. So they're moving. The developer is also designing the next phase of the subdivision. which in documents that you would have seen is phase 1B. And he's hoping to get to site preparation works later this summer. They're projecting early summer. Moving across Bayfield for the first time to the eastern side of Bayfield, that developer is in the preliminary stage of the process and actually hopes to commence site works later this year. They've got significant site works and it will take the better part of a year, maybe a little more than that. And also with council's indulgence, I wish to include an update on the east side of Bayfield in the Midhurst update going forward. That brings me to the end of the Midhurst development update. Thank you.
That certainly would be welcomed, that additional piece ongoing. Yes, Councillor Hannah?
Thank you, Mayor. Through the chair to you, Manager Rambero. But traffic lights that are going in at Snow Valley Road and Wilson Drive, are they at the south intersection or at the north intersection of Snow Valley and Wilson Drive by the railroad tracks?
General Manager?
Through you, Mayor Allen, to Councillor Hannah. I will have to confirm, but my recollection is it's on the north side of the intersection.
Thank you.
But I would suspect that's where most of the infrastructure is, but I would suspect as well that you'll have a light standard on the south side as well, simply to accommodate where everybody will be. So I will confirm and I'll touch base back with you.
Okay, Councillor Ritchie?
Thank you, Mayor Allen, through to Mahesh. That force main that they're putting in, what's the size of it?
General Manager?
If I recall correctly, 600 millimeters, 2 feet.
You mean in diameter?
Diameter.
That's a lot of water. Thank you.
CEO Schmidt?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just getting back to Councillor Hannah's question, just want to make sure we try to clarify this. So, Councillor Hannah, were you asking, if I understand you correctly, there's an intersection that at Snow Valley and Wilson, which is where I guess our works yard is on that portion of the Snow Valley. Are you asking if the traffic lights are at that intersection, or are you asking if the traffic lights are at the Snow Valley Road that goes west and Wilson? Is that what your question was?
Thank you. I was inquiring if it's on the same portion of Snow Valley Road where our Works Department yard is, which is the southernmost intersection, not the northern one, because I can see a problem with the north one with the traffic light being there and people stopping for the traffic light sitting on the railroad tracks.
So your understanding, CEO Schmidt, is that it's at the T-junction of Wilson and Snow Valley Road? Is that your understanding?
Correct, through you, Mr. Mayor, correct. I believe if I'm understanding Councillor Hannah correctly, it's the south Snow Valley portion that you're speaking of that has our work shared on it.
And General Manager's nodding his head. Deputy Mayor Coughlin?
Thank you, Marilyn. And I would really appreciate an update on that because I did understand it to be the north and both are essentially a T intersection. So if we could clarify for that, because I did understand it to be the train track intersection and I was curious as to how that would all work out. So yeah, clarification on that.
We could see if they could do both, possibly.
Just have lights all the way down. Everybody be super happy.
Okay, we'll get that clarified. All right, moving on to county updates. Deputy Mayor Coughlin.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. Most notably at our last meeting of council, as part of the 2019 regional government review mandated or initiated by the province, County Council has supported the county's RGR recommendation to streamline and modernize the County of Simcoe Library Cooperative Service. To move this from the cooperative to an ILS, Information Library Service. Through this initiative, through the committee and support of County Council, there will be a annual savings of $295,000, There is no downloading or no branches being closed. Also, further to that, County Council also endorsed a motion, and I am reading this from the counties, so I do apologize for reading this, but County Council also endorsed a motion to proceed with an investigation into the sharing of confidential information prior to it being discussed at County Council. Furthermore, County Council approved the motion to request that the province modify the Public Libraries Act to provide greater accountability to libraries and municipalities and their taxpayers. I fully supported this as a member of the committee and also as a member of County Council. I think this is a great move. I think that it's going to streamline things, and I think that our members of our county will appreciate this as we move forward.
Thank you. Any questions? Councillor Cabral?
Thank you, Mayor Allen. I did read something about this in the newspaper. And I can't help but notice that our CAO from the libraries here, I just like to know if she's got any comments on how it's going to affect our libraries. Here in
Okay.
Springwater Township.
CEO Delgado? Oh, there you are. Okay.
Thank you, Mayor Allen.
Thank you, Mayor Allen, and through you to Councillor Cabral. We are still waiting to get the transition plan from the county, and once we receive that, we'll be able to have a better idea of how all of our digital systems are still going to be maintained. So we are going to be having a meeting with Alan Greenwood, who is the interim CEO of the cooperative at the moment, sometime later in May, I was informed.
Okay. Deputy Mayor Coughlin?
Yeah. There we go. And thank you. Further to that, CEO Delgado, Mayor Allen and I did have conversations with CEO Delgado prior to the county vote, and as I did as a member of that committee. And what do you see as changes? What can Springwater residents anticipate as a change if the cooperative moves, as the cooperative moves from the previous cooperative to the ILS system? What changes will Springwater residents see?
CEO Delgado?
For part of it, they will definitely not see any change. We are actually very excited that we have 2 ILSs now. Our integrated library system, which is our circulation and cataloging system, will be moving to the cloud. So that is some good news to come out of this. And for that transition, the system may be down for a day. I'm not in IT, so I don't know what it takes to move something from a server to the cloud. So I will let IT inform us when that actually happens. We will be seeing a smaller circulating collection with our audiobooks, our Playways, our launch pads, because we'll no longer be getting those from the county. Right now they're on a rotation. So that will be a slight decrease in having new material in, but once again, it depends on how that material is distributed among the counties. So it'll be distributed among the systems that are currently making use of that material, so we will still have access to them. And for most of our digital, there'll be very little that they will see on the front end. It is all going to take place. There'll be lots of changes on the back end, but of course that will not really be passed along to our patrons.
Okay, thank you. All right, moving on to municipal updates, 13.5. Are there any municipal updates? Councillor Hannah?
Thank you, Mayor. The Midhurst Soapbox Derby and Classic Car Show is scheduled for Saturday, June the 18th, and with the assistance of staff and the coordinator this year of the event for the Soapbox Derby is Phil Fisher, and the Classic Car Show, Nadia D'Amicis. So hopefully it'll be nice weather and it'll be a great day.
What sort of public information is going out on that, Councillor Hannah, in the way of advertising?
Thank you. The MCRA has apparently got it on their site and it's going out. I have a flyer that's going out that I send to my constituents, and I'll send that out this week. And I believe there's it's already on the signboard in front of the library in Midhurst. So I believe Other people are sending out their portion of it, and I'm looking after sending out the flyer. And it'll explain to people if they want to sign up, the forms are available. If they want to sign up to register the car, what the requirements are for the car, and to sign up for the participant in the classic car show if you have a car you want to bring along. It's free, obviously, to the public to come in and watch it, and you're welcome to enjoy the barbecue. So it should be a fun day, as I say.
So if somebody were to go and look for details now, is there a link or a site or a Facebook page or?
I can't give you the truthful answer, but I believe there will be, and it should be on the I Love Midhurst site, and the MCRA posted on. I'm not sure if that's the site they posted on, but it will be out there. I don't go on those sites particularly.
Okay. Deputy Mayor Coughlin?
They've done a well job. It's well shared on social media, and the links and registration is easily accessible through social media. They've done a great job.
Okay, good. Good stuff. Nice to be able to have it again. Okay. Going to General Manager Dean for an update on, before we leave that, follow on.
Thank you, Marilyn. And through you, if I can indulge council, I just wanted to take a moment. Oh, wow, he's prompted. I did let him know in advance. So I did want to take a moment and just acknowledge our fire department. And I was going to then say if I could ask Chief Kirk to come on camera, but he's already done that. Fittingly, this is Emergency Preparedness Week. But on a personal level, my daughter and I were first on scene to a fatal accident last week. And I just wanted to thank Chief Kirk and especially Deputy Chief, your professionalism and compassion during those days, or during that day, and the following is something that I will always be thankful for. Springwater is lucky to have you both and your entire team dedicated to serving us. This is something I could never have been prepared for. I truly don't know how you do what you do, but I am eternally grateful. And I just want to thank you and your team sincerely for that day and the days thereafter. So thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. And as always, I will pass on the kind words to the rest of staff. And keep in mind that we're always here for staff and council should it be the unfortunate circumstance that your daughter and yourself were involved in, but we're here to support you through our peer support team and as friends. So thank you very much for those words.
Thank you both. Manager Dean, can you give us an update on the Springwater Swing, please?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Allen, through yourself to the rest of council. So the Springwater Swing, the 14th annual after a 2-year hiatus, is scheduled for Monday, May the 13th, and it will be at the Barrie Country Club this year. It will be a 1 p.m. shotgun with dinner to follow, and will be a scramble format. So we are tracking well for our registrations and our sponsorships to date. We do have our title sponsor, lunch sponsor, and our dinner sponsor secured, as well as a custom sponsorship for a golf ball and tee swag bag that will be presented to each golfer at the tournament. We are still seeking a few of our either new or returning sponsorship levels for our gold, silver, and our whole sponsors. And we are currently sitting at 74 golfers in total. So yeah, happy to report that we are tracking well. We are well underway for the additional planning of the day, and further details and reminders are sent out to any registrants in the coming days up to the tournament.
And just to repeat that date, you said June 13th, right?
Yes, Monday, June the 13th.
Okay, good. All right. Any questions? Any further municipal updates? Okay, moving on to 14.1, notice of motion. Councillor Ritchie has an existing notice of motion. Is there a seconder for that, please? Councillor Ma Chapman. It's regarding a parking lot for the Orr Lake Park. I'll turn it to General Manager Ramdale to maybe give us some information about that.
Thank you, Mayor Allen, and through you to members of council as well. If I could, so Orr Lake has been engaging staff's attention now, at least for the time that I've been here, and definitely before. In the last 6 months, myself, other public works, roads and fleet staff, and the bylaw, we've looked at it. Also looked at Orr Lake in relation to Marshall Road as well, in terms of the parking that's available in the area and the need for access to the lake. Specifically to Orr Lake, the land that we occupy right now is 82 feet wide, and of that, we only have title to 66 feet wide. There is a strip that is in someone else's name that we need to resolve. So that's on that particular one. The existing parking area within the 66 feet that we have equates to 5 parking spots. And if we were to extend the Orr Lake parking lot going towards the lake in that area that we own, we will gain a net of 2 more parking spaces. If we were to do the work by staff, it will cost us about $25,000 because there's a grade difference. So we have to build that back up. If we were to go further back, which we could go further back, we will need to take out 3 trees, and the grade difference becomes greater, and that will cost us about $45,000 or thereabouts to get that done. And in that scenario, we will gain about 2 or 3 more parking spaces. So those are the options that are available to us, yes.
Councillor Ritchie?
Mayor Allen, I'm bringing this forward because we had a delegation. Well, first, before I get started, thank you, Mahesh, for reporting that. But to go back, we had a presentation from a lady there last year. Parking is an issue. We see it, and it's just getting worse every year. And so I'm bringing it forward, the start of a new year. The warm season's coming. So what can we do to get this started, get going? From where the existing fence is now, and if you walk in on the property towards those trees that Mahesh just talked about, I had it written down at 61 feet. Like, there's lots of room there to move that, and how much we get done this year and phase it in. I'd like to see us get started with it, put some money towards it, and get working towards it so that we can try and eliminate this parking on the side of the road. There's a lot of families that use this park. It's big. It's a good depth from there down to the water. We got washing facilities. We got swing sets. It's a real family oriented. And to provide the parking, and we don't have that parking there. To provide parking is a safety for young families where a lot of day trippers come up, whether you're here at Orr Lake or whether you're up in Tiny Township. People come up from the city for the day, they enjoy the water, and then go back. So this person spoke about it at length, and I'm renewing the interest, and I think we need to move forward with this. I hope there's money there in the budget, and that's in regards to Orr Lake. So before I go any further, I'll let you respond to that. Either that, or you can come back with a more full report at the next council meeting. It's whatever you want to do.
Okay,
That's
General
what I'd like
Manager,
to see anyway.
General Manager Ramdale, if you've done some research on it, but so it wouldn't take that much more work to put it in a report fashion with associated numbers so that we could start to consider what the options were with some diagrams. Is that possible?
Mayor Allen, yes, that is entirely possible because we've done the homework already.
Yeah. Councillor Ma Chapman?
Thank you, Mayor Allen. And in that report, would it state how long that would take? I'm just concerned about if we start it, which I do support this motion, but I'm wondering if we start it, will it interrupt the summer months, I guess I'm looking at.
General Manager?
Through you, Mayor Allen, to Councillor Mark Chapman. If you're speaking about the construction duration, yes, we can put that in the report. It'll likely be about 2 weeks.
Yeah. Who else had their card up? Deputy Mayor, did you have your card hand up?
Thank you, Mayor Allen. With this notice of motion, is this speaking to the North Orr Lake Road or the South Orr Lake Road parking lot?
General Manager?
This is speaking to through you, Mayor Allen, to Deputy Mayor Coughlin. This is speaking about the South Orr Lake Road park.
Yeah.
Okay. And understand that there's a far stretch between where the parking lot is and where the lake actually is. And while now with my children being much older, it's much easier to access. There is an accessibility issue coming from North or Orr Lake Road down to it, but it is a beautiful area. I kite surf, I kayak, I canoe often on Orr Lake, and it is a beautiful lake to be on. I've never not been able to access a parking space. So I'm just curious if there's been multiple complaints. I know that we did have the one delegation to council regarding this, but has there been issues outside of the one delegation to council regarding the parking accommodation at Orr Lake?
General Manager, are you aware?
Through you, Mayor Allen, to Deputy Mayor Coughlin. I am not aware. It was something that I put back to bylaw, and I can get you that information.
Okay. Councillor Cabral?
Thank you, Mayor Allen. I'm a little bit confused because the one that came before us, the delegation, I believe it was for Marshall Street. And I think that's the one that Councillor Ritchie is talking about. So there might be a bit of miscommunication here on North Orr Lake Road on Marshall Street versus where Deputy Mayor Coughlin's speaking of at the south end. There is parking in the south end one at Orr Lake South. So I just not sure which one we're talking about now.
But I want to go to Councillor Ritchie to clarify first, Deputy Mayor, and then yourself. Go ahead.
Mayor Allen, through to Councillor Cabral, there's Margaret Road, which is just west of the park, and then there's Marshall. But Margaret Road runs around and then it links onto the property of the park. But what these people are concerned about is people are parking on their property. You know, even the person right beside the park, they're parking on my lawn. They're parking because there's no parking. And that's why they're parking on all these other streets, because there's no parking at the park in order to access the water. And
So
that's the problem we have.
You're talking about the South Orr Lake Road.
That's correct, Mayor Allen.
No.
Deputy Mayor Coughlin?
My apologies, Mayor Allen, and my apologies for my decorum. I think that there are potentially four on Orr Lake. There are potentially four significant accesses. One being North Orr Lake Road, which is off Highway 93 on the north side between the 10th and Orr Lake. There's also South Orr Lake Road, again being on the south side of Orr Lake, and then there's two accesses heading from the east of Orr Lake into Orr Lake. The east access is the parking that is available impedes or potentially impedes on private property. We as a municipality do have ample parking on both the north and the south of Orr Lake Road. However, it's easy. You come off 93 and you jaunt in. So there is ample parking. It's just if the parking when you pull in, if Marshall or Margaret is full, rather than leaving and going to either the north or the south Orr Lake Road parking lots, you just park where you're not supposed to park. So I'm kind of caught in this, being that I don't feel that we as a municipality need to accommodate people who, if you pull up to a parking area, it's not a parking lot, it's essentially a dead end road. We have parking that goes down the side of it. If that's full and you don't feel like moving your vehicle around to either the north or the south, that's on you. You can choose to park in an illegal parking area. There is parking on Orr Lake Road. It's just whether people choose to use it or not. I think that becomes the issue. But the issue is that becomes a nuisance to the people who live on those streets. Because there is access to the lake on those dead end roads, they dead end into the lake. So people come down with their kayaks on their, rather than using, we have the North Orr Lake Road is a large, you can park trailer and truck, numerous parking spots. You can turn around. It's a giant area. And it's not often full. I've never experienced it to be full. So
do we have no parking signs on those roads where
That's right.
they're not supposed to be parking?
No parking.
yes, we do. Yes, we do.
Yeah.
And our bylaw
Not
doesn't
supposed to
fit
park
to their
there.
capability. And that's my concern. Well, I do appreciate Councillor Ritchie's concern, and I do feel for the residents who have purchased cottages or temporary homes, or whether it's their full-time residence, they purchased it on a street that has access to the lake. That comes with parking issues. So for us to bend over backwards to accommodate 1 or 2 more parking spaces, where if you leave Margaret or Marshall and drive 1 or 2 minutes away, we have ample parking. The municipality is already providing ample parking. So that's my concern.
Councillor Ritchie?
Mayor Allen, I respectfully disagree with what you're saying. First off, on the north side, it's a boat launch. It's there to launch boats. Not there to park. There's no swing sets. There's nothing.
No,
I'm
it's not a
talking
park,
about
it's a
the Orr
parking
Lake
lot.
Park where a family could go for the day and enjoy the park. It's a park. It's got bathrooms. It's got swing sets. The boat launch doesn't have that. There's nothing off 93 Highway. And there's nothing off the other end as well either. So we must be talking about a different lake here. There's people that came because they're parking on their lot. They're parking on their property. We need to move the fence. We can do it. We have the gravel. We have the capability. It's a matter of moving the fence in, whatever works, and get started on the process. That's what we need to do for Orr Lake. And that would help solve the parking issue.
Yeah, I think this has introduced parking challenges surrounding Orr Lake, and I think we need a further staff report on the possibilities of parking and look at the options of what the issues and problems are, and if there's money involved in solving them, then analyze those as well. So I think we need more information on this. Councillor Ritchie, follow on.
Mayor Allen, just to take that a step further, like all I'm asking, we can move that fence in. I think Mahesh, Scott, all of them, we're all on the same page here. Move that in, get it ready, even move the fence. We put a layer of gravel. We got lots of good gravel on the 10th. But let's get the ball rolling here. What can we do this year and get going to eliminate the parking at the park? Because there's people parking, somebody's going to get hurt, and we pay $500,000. You go back 3 council meetings, 2 council meetings. One of the agenda items there, we're paying $500,000 a year in insurance. And it'd be pretty bad for us to be liable because we didn't provide the proper parking when we had the opportunity to do it. I'm talking about the park.
Well,
that's the whole thing. And that's why that lady was here last year. And we're going to have, and Mayor Allen, may I just say, it's not going to get any better. It's only going to get worse.
Okay.
Because there's more people coming up and accessing our area.
Yeah. Deputy Mayor
That's
Coughlin.
Orr Lake. Now I need to do about the other one.
Well, we're
But
not at that yet. So
I'm sorry.
Deputy Mayor Coughlin.
Thank you, Marilyn. So if this notice of motion is specific to the South Orr Lake Road Park where the actual playground is, where there is about 7 to 8 parking spots. I don't know. The previous report that we had from MLEO Kellington did speak to the parking on the east and the north. So if this is specific to this area, also, I would also, if this is going to be approved, I have never been apprised to a $500,000 liability insurance on one parking lot. So I would like further information to Councillor Ritchie's claim on that. I don't see the need for it. I think that there is ample parking. It's much like going to any facility. If one parking lot's full, you move to the next. I do agree that at the South Orlake Road, it is a deep between the road and the lake. There is lots of room for additional parking, if that's what council is suggesting. But as on the north and the east parking, I don't see an issue with any of them. So I think that there needs to be some more direction as to which of the 4 Councillor Ritchie is requesting.
Councillor Ritchie?
Mayor Allen, let staff bring back a report, okay? Maybe they can answer Deputy Mayor Coughlin's concerns about the parking, but they come back and explain further about the parking at Door Lake Park. And I think Mahesh knows what I'm talking about. That's in regards to.
Okay, Clerk Ainsworth, can you craft some wording then for a staff report that looks at all of the parking around Orlake? Because not just the one at the south end, but all of the where people are parking now, either legally or illegally, and the adequacy of those and the issues with respect to those, please. Deputy Mayor Coughlin.
And if I may, in the meantime, Marilyn, through you to, I'm not sure if MLEO Kellington is available, but have there been any bylaw complaints about parking on South Orlake Road aside from the staff report received earlier this year?
Is Clerk Ainsworth?
Thank you, Mayor Allen, through you. We would include that information in the upcoming staff report should the notice of motion be approved. Unfortunately, I don't have the information in front of me this evening.
Okay, so this motion, go ahead, Clerk Ainsworth. And we'll get this on the floor and then final discussion, then vote on it.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. What I would recommend is just simply taking out a couple of words to state that a report back to council on how to expand the parking at Orlake and removing the word lot. That way it would encompass just parking in general at Orlake.
Okay, Councillor Ritchie.
Mayor Allen, there's still the other part of this notice of motion to deal about the park, about that spot down at Carson Road and Ann Street North. So, like, if we're going to do an amendment, we should park it until we deal with the other half of this notice of motion.
The Carson Road and, sorry, which?
Carson Road and Ann Street on open road allowance.
Oh, right. Okay.
Can we not just park this for now and deal with the Ann Street and then put it all together and vote on it?
Okay,
Clerk
so
Renee?
Talk about Carson and Ann. Go ahead.
Well, again, it's the same thing. We're dealing with the same thing. We talked about this last year. Councillor Moore spoke about it. Every time I go to Barrie, I go up Carson Road, Ann Street, or go across over to Wilson to go to the south end. And you see all these people parked along the side of the road. And yes, I know when we brought this up, the response from staff and everybody was, well, you know what? The developer said we could park on their land. Well, you know what? That's fine for the few years, but eventually they're going to be putting houses there. But aside from that, it's an unopened road allowance. An unopened road allowance is 66 feet wide. Why couldn't we get the ball started by saying, what's the cost? And again, we've talked about it and nothing's gotten done. That's why I'm bringing it back, because the warm weather's coming. There's a lot of people using that path. Why couldn't we get a price to say, okay, let's get an arborist or a logger in there to bring it back, cut the trees down. There might be some trees we got to take out. You know, I put a sign on it, say free firewood. The stuff would disappear overnight. Like it'd be gone.
But
Let's just get started here and open it up so we can put up some parking there. We'll close it down in the wintertime.
Okay, let me go to Councillor Moore. Since the developers have offered the use of their parking lot, from your perspective, Councillor Moore, how has that improved the parking situation there?
So I can say with some pretty good certainty that folks are not using it. I've been advocating for a sign to be put up for probably a year that would direct pedestrians to the parking lot. That was never done. So I'm frustrated also. And the response I get is that the cars are likely residents, or folks that are in the cars are likely residents of Barrie. But in my opinion, it's Springwater's liability. And so it doesn't matter where the cars come from or where the pedestrians come from. They're using our property and it's our job to make it safe. And the road is skinny and there are cars everywhere on the weekend particularly. And it is a T intersection once again. So they park on Ann Street as well as Carson Road. And then they cross over Carson Road to get to the trail.
General Manager Ramdale.
Thank you, Mayor Allen, to Councillor Moore and to Councillor Ritchie. Yes, we do have an agreement with the developer allowing residents to park on their parking area that's adjacent to the model homes and the sales office. We have ordered the sign directing residents to that parking area. We expect that sign to arrive on Friday. If it arrives early enough, it will be up on Friday. If it arrives later in the afternoon, it'll likely be up on Monday. So hopefully that sign, as I said, will direct residents to park in that parking area.
Mm-hmm.
Can I follow on, please?
Yes, go ahead.
And I do appreciate that. I really do. But there is a contingency that when the developer is busy or when they're having new releases of homes, that they would prefer pedestrians not use the parking lot because, of course, those spots are for people purchasing homes. It doesn't really solve a problem. It really doesn't solve anything.
Deputy Mayor Coughlin.
Thank you, Marilyn. And then I guess the question becomes, in the future, when that parking lot no longer exists and there are far more residents in the area because that parking lot is now homes as well as everything else, what are we proactively doing to provide space for people to safely park and enjoy Springwater? Because at the end of the day, I want everybody to enjoy Springwater. It's especially the trail system, and that's the head of the trail system into Barrie. And yes, it services residents of Barrie, but I do agree with Councillor Moore that whether you're a resident of Springwater or not, they're going to use it. So we do need to provide safe access to that. So I think that a more focused approach as to how we are going to, I think that using that parking lot in the interim is a fabulous solution. But what are we going to do when that parking lot no longer exists? I don't want us to have a reactive approach to that.
Councillor Hannah.
Thank you. And I think we're making decisions on information we don't have.
Yeah.
We don't know what's going to happen with that parking lot in the future, but I would suggest a progressive approach would be to additional no parking signs, and in addition to the sign telling people they can park in the developer's parking lot, the sign also inform him that there's a lot of parking space available on Snow Valley Road at the north end of the Ann Street Trail. And I think if we proceeded in a progressive manner like that, we'd be able to come up with a reasonable solution in the end.
Mm-hmm. Councillor Cabral? No. Okay, well, these, in my opinion, these are two separate parking issues. We don't have budget for it, and we need more information so that we can make a proper assessment and decide, you know, when and how this might get done. And both both situations. So it's important enough to be looked into further. And so I would support, staff reporting and assessing and analyzing this further and coming back to us. We can't rush it. We can't do it piecemeal. We can't hope to get it accomplished for this summer, realistically, because we heard some preliminary numbers from the general manager, and we need to get those firmed up more. So, Councillor Ritchie, and then
Mayor Allen, I respectfully disagree. We talked about this last year, and we talked about it, but it seemed to just and that's why I'm bringing it forward now. But to have this discussion in October after bylaws been out and given parking tickets, and it's not going to stop. We're not fixing the problem. The problem is parking. And if somebody's going to get seriously hurt, they'll say, why didn't you provide parking? You could have done it. And that's where we're going to be responsible. We need to get started and start putting money towards it. There should be money towards both of these right now, as far as I'm concerned. To at least get the trees cleared back on the unopened road allowance of Ann Street. Because like Councillor Hanna said, the one on the other side on Snow, it's used all the time. Because there's parking. We got to provide the parking, regardless of either end, whether it be down on the unopened Ann Street or Orlake Park, it's parking. And to keep handing tickets out doesn't fix the problem.
No, I'm not saying I'm saying do an analysis so that we know what the cost is, what the possibilities are to get it fixed, not ignore it.
I agree. We need to move forward with this, and both areas, and to just take that a step forward to deal with Harrison and Ann Street. Like that whole area is going to come under growth.
Yes, we know.
And the more growth, the more people, the more parking, and it's an accident looking for a place to happen. And they'll say, well, why didn't you guys do something?
Okay.
You know what? We need to provide, we can work towards it, put the money in place, set money aside. And I fundamentally believe we can do both of these projects. We just need to get the ball started. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Coughlin, and then we'll go to Clerk Ainsworth for the wording.
Thank you, Marilyn. I have no problem with these both being part of one recommendation. I think that this is going to move forward as a recommendation report to be formulated as part of the next budget.
Yeah.
I don't see this moving forward feasibly anytime prior to that. So if the recommendation report is for both of these parking issues to be addressed and known of prior to the next budget so they can be included in the works for 2023, I fully support that.
Clerk Ainsworth? Councillor Moore.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. I just want to, with all due respect, say that I had submitted an item for future consideration on this exact topic a year ago. So I'd like to understand a little more clearly where that is in its development.
I think it just got accelerated to a report coming forward.
Can it be more timely?
As soon as it can be analyzed and created. So it's moving along from IFC now to part of a motion in progress, subject to voting for it. Does that answer your question, Councillor Moore?
Yeah, thank you.
Deputy Mayor Coughlin?
Thank you, Marilyn, and through you, and not to elaborate this, but the difference between an IFC and a notice of motion. Can we elaborate on that through you to Clerk Ainsworth, please?
Clerk Ainsworth?
Thank you, Mayor Allen, through you to council. So a notice of motion is generally used for statements, direct action that, a direct action versus asking for a report for something. A an IFC is just that, asking for a report, asking for further information. Some members of council do use a notice of motion for seeking reports, which there's nothing wrong with that. It's when it's the other way around. So if a member of council is seeking, for example, to paint the administration center, have final approval, that wouldn't be appropriate as an item for future consideration, as there wouldn't have been notice on an agenda for council to make a decision on. So that's one of the other differences, is a notice of motion gets listed on an agenda. Council knows about it ahead of time, whereas an IFC is just presented at the table, which is again why it's more appropriate for when somebody is looking for further information or a further staff report on a matter.
Okay, Clerk Ainsworth, then to adjust the wording for this motion then for us to consider, please.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. The only item that I've heard about a potential change would be to the location of the parking lots that are to be included in the report, and it would be up to Councillor Ritchie. So currently it states parking lot at Orr Lake Park. I would need direction from Councillor Ritchie to see if he wants to include all Orr Lake parking or specifically at the Orr Lake Park.
The South Orr Lake Park, because the other parking, well, there isn't any, just South Orr Lake Park and the one on the unopened road allowance on Ann Street. Those are the two. And I'm asking for a report to come back to council so we can get started in fixing these problems.
Yeah, but Councillor Ritchie, we discussed that you can't just look at one of the parking lots at Orr Lake Road. You've got to look at all of the areas, the two streets and the two parking lots that are presently being used for parking.
Well, okay, you know what, to keep it simple, let's look at the whole lake. But the main problem is the one there at the park, highlight it. The one on the north side is a boat launch. It's not for a picnic with the kids. It's a boat launch, okay? There's nothing on 93, and you can't tramp through the bush on the west side. So really, you only got one. But we'll leave it as the whole lake. How's that?
Okay, go ahead, Clerk Ainsworth.
Thank you. So again, I would recommend removing simply the word lot and park. So it would be that's report back to council on how staff are going to expand parking at Orr Lake this spring. And then the remainder.
Mayor Allen, please.
Yes, Councillor Ritchie.
It has to be Orr Lake Park, South Orr Lake Park. That's where the problem is. That's where the lady came. That's where we've got to address that.
Well,
South Orr Lake Park, it has to be put in there.
That would be, when we're looking at Orr Lake parking, that includes the south parking lot.
Well, I'm just saying that we need a report back from staff as to how we're going to expand the parking lot at South Orr Lake Park.
Marilyn?
Yes.
That's what we need to do. Clerk Renee, that's what needs to be put there.
Thank you,
Deputy
Marilyn.
Mayor?
And thank you, Marilyn, and through you to Clerk Ainsworth and through Councillor Ritchie. Then if the resolution could read South Orr Lake Park and additional parking at Orr Lake. That way it encompasses everything. And Councillor Ritchie gets to address the concern of his resident, and we get a fulsome report on the whole parking of Orr Lake.
Okay, Clerk Ainsworth, you incorporate that, please?
Thank you. Yes, Mayor Allen, with Councillor Ritchie's approval on that.
It's past my bedtime, but I'll say yes. Let's go ahead with that.
Okay. And then we'll incorporate as well the Carson Road and Ann Street. And so that will look at possibilities, costs, included signage, and other options for both of those areas. Okay. All right. All those in favor? That is carried. Now, other notices of motion. Councillor Ritchie?
Yes, that's right. Take my glasses off. Minute. Be it resolved, I'll read it again. Be it resolved that council direct staff Public Works to bring to council a report on the cost of installing a charging station or two, and to be put in the parking lot at the administration building and Public Works yards, and further to find out what grants or government money there is available for this and electric vehicles. Just to say, I think this would be ideal for building department by law. Charge it at night, hop in it. And I'm bringing this to light because Mayor Allen, with
Okay,
fuel.
Councillor Ritchie, sorry to interrupt. You're bringing forward a motion tonight. That's fine. We
All
don't
right.
discuss it, as you know.
All
but
right, sorry.
It'll come forward going forward, and you can make these points at that time. Clerk Ainsworth, did you capture that? Yeah, she's shaking her head. Any other notices of motion?
No.
Okay, moving on to bylaws 17.1. Can I have a mover and seconder for approval of bylaws? That the bylaws listed herein be signed and sealed by the mayor and clerk. 2022-035 procedural bylaw amendment. 2022-036 part of lot control mix. 5000-351 ZB 2022-003 DeBoer, and 5000-352 ZB 2020-015 Walton. All those in favor? That is carried. Mover and seconder for the confirmatory bylaw. Councillor Cabral, Councillor Moore, that the bylaw 2022-037 to confirm and adopt the proceedings of council at the regular meeting held on May 4, 2022, listed herein be signed and sealed by the mayor and clerk. All those in favor? It's carried. Mover and seconder to adjourn. Councillor Ritchie, Councillor Ma Chapman, that the regular meeting of the Township of Springwater is now adjourned at 9:36, 3 hours. PM to meet again in a regular meeting on May 18th, 2022 at 6:30 PM. All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Class dismissed.
Good night, everybody.